Yo, it's your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics, back at you with a new video. Today is Thursday, November 27th, 2025, with your boy Ryan and the Northwest Sports Fanatics. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, smash that like button either now or on your way out. Donate to your boy if you can. Cash App $, ORIONNWSF, or the YouTube Super Chat right here. We got the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Baltimore Ravens on Thanksgiving Day. Kickoff is going to be here in just a minute or two, so let's cue up the music, take a look at the thumb, and let's get settled in for the last game on Thanksgiving. I hope everyone has had a fantastic holiday. I got back just in time for this late game. Packers and Lions was an amazing matchup, just like the Cowboys and the Chiefs. And we're hoping that this Bengals game with Joe Burrow available versus Lamar Jackson will live up to the billing. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. On the thumb, on the left, it is Joe Cool. It is Joe Burrow. And on the right, Action Jackson, Lamar Jackson. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Oh my gosh.
Ronald in the building. What's good? How are you? Sarah in the building. How are you? Yeah, I mean, the games, I thought this was probably the best slate that we've seen from top to bottom, maybe ever. Like, I'm trying to remember the last time that we had 3 games that could be potentially all competitive. Now, obviously, if Joe Burrow didn't play today, we know that T-Rex is out. The Bengals defense is non-existent. We assume the Ravens are going to win this game, but if Burrow and Chase can, play good, they might have a chance to keep this game close and make it exciting. And I actually thought the Cowboys had a very good chance, on Thanksgiving Day to beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs have been kind of reeling. They found a way to win. And obviously the Packers, came into Detroit. Normally, Detroit gets the job done against a weaker opponent at home, but they had to play the Green Bay Packers this year, and Green Bay was furious right from the start. It probably didn't help that Amon-Ra got hurt right at the very beginning of the game. If he ends up being healthy, maybe the game ends up a little bit differently, but congratulations to the Packers and the Cowboys on getting the job done. And it's not necessarily saying the season's completely over, for the Lions or the Chiefs, but anytime you lose on a holiday, obviously it brings you down just a little bit. And we will definitely see what we have here with the Bengals and the Ravens. Ronald is getting us started off with a $1 holla. I appreciate it. Every dollar counts, and I appreciate you. Stacks, racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Ronald starts us off with $1. On the dono train, I appreciate you. 99 to go to hit the goal. Let's go, baby. Megan in the building. How are you? And I'm really happy that Burrow obviously is back. Otherwise, if Burrow wasn't back, maybe I decide to take the rest of the day off and just watch all the new episodes of Stranger Things. But again, I can end up doing that after this game is over. And then we will be live tomorrow for the Eagles and the Bears on Black Friday. The only NFL game, it'll be on early at noon. And I will be live streaming that game as well. And then we'll get into the Ducks and the Huskies on Saturday. And then the regular Sunday night football, Monday night football schedule moving forward. Daniel in the building. How are you? It was pretty good. We did have a loudmouth drunk guy behind us. Obviously, the arcade was great. The food was great. And then when we went to the game, Blazers lost. And I'm okay with that, but again, and nothing makes it worse when you go to a sporting event and you have a loudmouth individual, and it doesn't matter, if it's a Blazer fan or a Spurs fan, the opposing team or the current team, but nobody that's sitting around you wants to hear someone, talking loudly throughout the whole game. It definitely got to a point where I almost turned around, but I felt, we are getting closer to the holidays, and, some people are just built that way. And it definitely brought the experience down a little bit, but I'm not going to let one guy, ruin the entire night, based on just not being able to shut the hell up. Kickoff here to the Bengals. Ooh, and a decent return there. And now we are going to get going here, and it's great to see Joe Burrow out on the field. Drew in the building. How are you? And shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. And an 8-yard pass up the middle to Tinsley. Mitchell Tinsley. I see you, Joe Burrow. 8-yard gain. And now we got a 2nd down and 2 at the Cincinnati 44. Great to see Joey B back. As you know, the Bengals never have a defense. And T-Rex, their best defender is out. So, again, I don't expect really any kind of defense from the Bengals here today. But if Burrow and Chase can keep this game going offensively, then maybe we can have a little bit of a shootout towards the end. Megan with a 10er. Appreciate you. Ooh, exciting. Awesome. Appreciate you. Stacks. Racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Seeing you've been able to get a few of the Lego pieces for the birthday, which is awesome. Have you decided if you're going to keep them in the box or if you're going to build them yet? 2nd down and 2, little screen pass. And that's Chase Brown avoiding a tackle. Ooh, baby. I like that. A 3-yard gain. 1st down, Bengals. Move the trains. Sarah with $1. Every dollar counts going towards the internet bill, the streaming fee, or just taking care of my pup. So I appreciate you. Stacks, Racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Appreciate you. Thank you to the 3 of you, Ronald, Sarah, and Megan, for getting us started off on a good foot. Appreciate you. 1st down and 10. Chase Brown running towards that right side. Good gap. Good blocking downfield. And that's a nice 7-yard gain with Buchanan with the tackle. 2nd down and 3 at the Baltimore 46. Hope everyone is having a fantastic holiday. Good food, good family, good friends, good football. It all comes together. Nice 14-yard pass there to Drew Sample. 14-yard gain. 1st down. Bengals. Joe looks very crisp, her early on after missing quite a lot of time, a good chunk of the season. So that's always great to see. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do help us get to 100 likes, 100 on the dono train. And 5 to 15 subs, but I'm really liking what Burrow is doing here early. Regardless if you like the Bengals or not, Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks in the game when healthy. He's been out for a long time. And again, for them to have any chance in this game, it's going to have to be Joe Burrow. And a nice tackle there by Starks. But it looks like we have holding on the penalty here. Let's see if this is defensive holding on Baltimore, which I assume it will be. But a great tackle there on Starks on Chase Brown, and we do get a hold. And that's a 5-yard penalty. And repeat 1st down. You're going to keep him in the box. Nice. That's probably the smart thing to do, unless you get like a double, and then you can use the double and open that up and build it and whatnot. Yeah, getting some more running back depth. Again, it kind of feels right now that, the Rams might be the best team in the NFC, but the Eagles and Seahawks are very close behind. And definitely excited to see where it goes in the NFC with those teams. Nice pass there to Jamar Chase. 9-yard gain with the shotgun pass from Burrow on 1st down and 10. Now 2nd down and 1 at the Baltimore 18. And we know both of these teams do not have defense, and Baltimore's defense is better than the Bengals. But at times, if the quarterback is elite like Burrow, he will rip you apart. And again, even though the names are better on Baltimore, they have had some issues with run defense and pass defense at times throughout the season. Obviously, more of an offensive-minded, juggernaut. But again, at times, Baltimore's defense will make plays. Will they make them today against Burrow? We don't know. Handoff up the middle to Chase Brown. And 2-yard gain. 1st down, Bengals. Hooday. And obviously, the Bengals offense really hasn't been the same since Joe Mixon left to the Texans. When they had T. Higgins healthy, right? They had Tyler Boyd healthy, Jamar Chase healthy, Joe Mixon and Burrow healthy. It felt like a little bit more of a squad. And obviously, some of those individuals are no longer on the team. But Chase Brown is still as an effective back. Maybe not as good as Joe Mixon, but at times he tries. Shotgun set here on 1st down and 10, and passing complete short left to Mitchell Tinsley, the wide receiver. And interesting that he would go to Tinsley in that situation. 2nd down and 10 at the Baltimore 16. Now, you never can have enough running backs or wide receivers or enough offensive linemen or defensive linemen this time of year. It's always good to have depth just in case, someone ends up getting injured, either, short-term, sprained ankle for like a couple weeks or something that might be season ending, and then at least you have someone else that, you at least have another piece that you can rotate in. 2nd down and 10, Chase Brown off that left side. And a nice gang tackle by the Ravens, wearing purple top to bottom, looking fresh. Purple helmet, purple jersey, purple pants, purple socks, purple shoes. Looking fresh out there. 3rd down and 7 at the Baltimore 13. Hawks in the building. How are you? All the games today were great. The Packers and Lions was back and forth. Chiefs and Cowboys was back and forth. And I'm really hoping Bengals Ravens to cap off our Thanksgiving evening will be great. Then I'll go into Stranger Things 5. And then tomorrow we'll end up doing the Eagles and the Bears. And we'll find out if the Bears can actually beat a team that has a good record. And I'm definitely interested in doing that tomorrow at noon. Shotgun set, Burrow. And incomplete to Jamar Chase. Really good coverage by the Ravens. They had 3 defenders there locked down on Jamar. And now it's 4th down and 7 at the Baltimore 13. Kick the field goal with McPherson. Take the 3-0 lead. Kick is up, and it is good. Good decision by Cincinnati. And obviously when you're driving the football down that easily on Joe Burrow's first drive, of course you want 6. But sometimes, as you get to the 20 in the red zone, there's less room to maneuver, for your players. And sometimes you just have to take what the defense gives you. Good decision by not going for it. We have seen a lot of teams in college and the NFL saying, fuck it, we're just going to go for it on 4th and 1, 4th and 5. And it doesn't matter where they are on the field, sometimes on their own 50, and they decide to go for it. But good decision there by the Bengals. 3-0 here early on for Cincinnati. Happy Thanksgiving 2025 from the NWS. F to you and your family. We love you and we appreciate you. It's been a fantastic day, and it's going to be a fantastic weekend of football on the NFL and the college football side. And again, if you are a fan of Stranger Things, Netflix ended up having a meltdown when it first came out, obviously around 5 p.m. Pacific, but there hasn't really been any issues since then. And again, highly recommended if you are a fan of the series. Yeah, and that's the thing. When you don't have Ben Johnson calling plays, the Lions aren't the same team anymore. They might have a majority of the same players, a couple offensive linemen that have been shuffled in and shuffled out, retired, injured, and you get one guy back. But if you notice, when they go for it on 4th down, they don't convert nearly as much as they did last year and the year before with Ben Johnson, who now is the Bears coach. And now the Bears have this amazing record. They haven't played anybody good, and they have a minus in the plus-minus differential, which is kind of crazy because normally when you see teams that have an above 500 record, it's usually like plus 20, plus 50, plus 40. And this is the only team in the NFL that's got a negative because they got blown out week 2 by the Lions. But all the games have been close for the Bears, but you still got to give the Bears credit. Even though the schedule was incredibly easy up to that point, still, to get those dubs was difficult. And again, we know in the NFL, a lot of games are going to end between 3 and 7 points. So I'm really excited to see if Ben Johnson's got the best game plan against the Eagles. And again, the Eagles got shut out by the Cowboys in the second half. Somehow, some way, if the Bears can fly around on defense and maybe get some points on D or on special teams, and Caleb cannot turn the ball over early or often, and they can strike, early in the game, maybe the Bears will have a chance to hang around late against Philadelphia. And again, if they win against the Eagles, that'll be a springboard win and making the division in the NFC North that much more jumbled, with the Packers, Lions, and Bears all fighting for position in the playoffs. And I'm really excited about that game tomorrow. We haven't really got a chance to see too many Bears games, and the schedule gets much more difficult the here on out. They have one of the hardest schedules, kind of like Tampa had, in the last 2 months. Now it goes to Chicago, and almost every game the rest of the season is going to be very difficult. So we will find out if Chicago is a contender or a pretender, but definitely looking forward to watching some great football. Kickoff by McPherson, 65 yards. And a nice 31-yard return there from Keaton Mitchell. First down and 10 at the Baltimore 31. All right, we saw an amazing drive there by the Bengals get cut short to a field goal, but I like the way that Burrow was moving around, off the injured foot and whatnot, and he looked smooth out there. Offensive line actually did a pretty good job. Let's see what Lamar can do here and see if they can punch it in the end zone on their first drive. Lamar under center, short middle to Charlie Kolar, the other tight end. Wow, look at that. Right up the middle, exploiting the zone, 17-yard gain. First down, Ravens. Ravens flock, stand up. And again, they don't have T-Rex available in the game, so I don't assume a whole lot of pass rush for sacks like they normally would have. That might be the only good piece on defense that they normally have. T-Rex, Trey Hendrickson, and he's injured. So again, they should be able to dink and doink with the short screens and obviously little in-out routes and slants, but also being able to take advantage of the middle of the field like they just did there. Henry up the middle, and that's a 2-yard gain. B.J. Hill with the tackle. Second down and 8 at the 50. Yeah, sometimes a change of scenery can be good. I saw that Daniel Jones has a fracture in the leg. That's not ideal, but it sounds like he's going to play through the pain and try to make it throughout the whole year. Hopefully it doesn't completely break before the season ends, so that way that he can push that team to the playoffs as far as they can go. Prayers up for Daniel Jones and a lot of the other players, that have been nicked up, banged up, and just trying to make it through this season. Lamar, short left. Nice pass there for about 7. No huddle, shotgun set. Henry off the guard, 4-yard gain. First down, Ravens. First down and 10 at the Cincinnati 39. You got Lamar, you got Derrick Henry, you got Zay Flowers, you got Mark Andrews, you got Charlie Kolar. I mean, you got weapons on weapons on weapons, and again, Isaiah Likely as well. So, it's not like, Lamar is lacking any type of weapons. And again, it's just going to be if the offensive line can push around this defense. Yeah, and for a diva receiver like Pickens, where it's like more about me than the team, Dak has been able to get him the ball enough where he hasn't really had to complain like A.J. Brown this year. And again, it has been a good fit with him and CeeDee Lamb, and obviously a better quarterback to be able to get you the ball in Dak than anyone that has ever been on Pittsburgh that threw to Pickens. So sometimes it is a blessing when you go somewhere else, especially when you get a better quarterback like Dak, who I really like. And incomplete, good coverage there. Deep middle to Zay Flowers. Turner says not today. Second down and 10 at the Cincinnati 39. Yeah, but Daniel Jones is a tough cookie. And again, hopefully the injury doesn't get any significantly worse until you guys are, out of the playoffs or if the season is over. And then he can have surgery and then hopefully he'll be good to go next year. But, again, usually when guys have fractures, they're out. And we'll see, obviously what kind of brace he has, wearing, on that leg moving forward, and hopefully he'll be okay. Shotgun set, Lamar scrambling off that left side, and Demetrius Knight Jr. finally getting Lamar Jackson there. Lamar is so fast. He goes in with the slide and says, hey, I'm not going to take any chances at CTE or any tackles to the head. First down, Ravens. Let's go. Ravens looking very fluid here, just like Joe Burrow did on their first drive. But again, I think this is probably the best slate of games that we've ever seen on Thanksgiving. Going back 10, 15, 20 years, normally it's like one good game. The Lions usually play a bad team in the morning. Cowboys usually play a bad team in the afternoon. And then sometimes, go, baby, go, towards the sideline, touchdown, Ravens, Derrick Henry. But today is the first day where all the games were good. Packers, Lions, yes, sir. Right? Chiefs and Cowboys, the perfect matchup where they're evenly matched. Great. And then now you got the Bengals and the Ravens, and Derrick Henry says, give me a block and I'll take care of the rest. Rumbling and a bumbling down that sideline, tiptoeing in my Jordans, and he gets a nice tutty. Extra point is up by Loop, and it is good. 7-3 Ravens. There we go. And again, the Ravens are going to score points. The real question is, can Joe Burrow match? They're not going to match touchdown for touchdown. But again, if they're going to go field goal here and there, that's fine. But eventually you're going to have to connect with Jamar Chase or some of the other players on the team like Chase Brown. Otherwise, this game is going to get away from Cincinnati. 7-3 Raven lead. Great offense here early between the Bengals and the Ravens. But, when I saw that Cowboy-Chief matchup, now, if this was in years past, you would have been like Chiefs all the way. Cowboys have no shot. But based on how the Cowboys have been playing, within the last 3 weeks, I kind of thought they were going to win. And they ended up winning, And again, if you can get hot and healthy at the right time, even if you have like a round of 500 record, you don't really know who's going to show up. And honestly, the Cowboys are playing like they have a record maybe 3 games above 500, 4 games. That's how they're playing. They may not have that record. And then obviously the Chiefs are playing as if they were a below 500 team. And now they're finally kind of getting into that mix where they're at 500, a game above 500, or a game below 500. And then you're getting into dangerous territory because you're not going to get 3 teams in the AFC West, right? The Broncos are in the playoffs, Chargers, and the Chiefs were going to battle it out for that second spot. And if the Chiefs keep losing games like this, they're just going to inevitably just knock themselves out. And then that's going to turn into, obviously, a Charger playoff appearance more than likely, even though we know that the Charger defense usually folds in the playoffs. But it's going to take a miracle, to be able to get the Chiefs in the playoffs, it feels, at this point. So Megan with a tour. Henry with that last touchdown. Stacks, Racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. $2 holla on the Dono train. But again, great start for both teams here early. And again, I hope in the future we can get a great slate like we did, on this Thanksgiving. And then obviously on Christmas, we'll end up doing the last late game, which will be the Broncos and the Chiefs. And you would assume, that the Broncos will end up getting that win. But I think the game is in Kansas City on Christmas. So again, they'll feed off the fans and they'll have a shot, but if the Bronco defense keeps playing like they typically have been playing, it may not be enough for Patrick Mahomes at that point, and Bo might be able to score just enough points to be able to get that victory on Christmas night. But we've definitely had a pretty good slate for holiday games, and I'm looking forward to Bears and Eagles on Black Friday tomorrow. And that game will be on early at noon tomorrow, the only NFL game played on Friday. And then obviously we'll do Sunday Night Football as well as Monday night as well. Vikings on the birthday, trap game for Seattle, but as long as they do what they've been doing for a majority of the season, they should be able to win that. They may not win by as much as you would like, like in that Titans game, but again, at the end of the day, a win is a win, and sometimes, the other team kind of gets lucky, or you put in backups and then they start, getting some garbage time points to make the game not look as much of a blowout, even though it was. But again, I feel pretty confident that Seattle should be able to get that job done. Loop with that kickoff there, muffed. And now let's see what we get here on 1st down and 10 for Joe Burrow. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. Marlon Humphrey big sack lunch from the cornerback position. 7-yard loss on Joe Burrow. Joey cool. And we will see the 2nd down and 17 if he can make up for some of those yards. Yeah. And again, not every game is going to turn out the way that you think it will. We already know the Titans are one of the worst teams in the NFL, like the Jets and the Saints. But that doesn't mean that those teams won't show up, for a quarter or two, even though they may lose. But, they may make the game a little bit closer at the end of the game, even though it might have been a little bit of a blowout earlier on. So shotgun set for Burrow. Going deep to Jamar Chase. Incomplete. 3rd down and 17 to the Cincinnati 26. And obviously they didn't really get on the right foot on this particular drive with the sack to start off on 1st down. And again, you're going to have to dink and doink and just try to get some positive yards. You're not going to be able to go for Hail Mary, go routes, post routes to Jamar Chase, on every single play. You're going to have to get some of your other teammates involved. And on top of that, you cannot abandon the run if you're the Bengals. You have to keep continuing to go to Chase Brown. And the moment that they stop going to the run, that's where the Ravens are going to run away with this game, if that happens. 3rd down and 17, timeout, Baltimore. Yeah, the honest thing in football and with us fans, you never know how it's going to play out. On the games on paper, when you look at a shit team, you're like, oh, we're going to blow them out. But then what happens? Sometimes you lose or sometimes you barely win. And then you look at a game, oh, we're never going to win. We're going to get our ass kicked and we're going to lose. And then you end up winning by, 3 or maybe even blowing a team out like that, by 14 or 20. So a lot of times, based on looking at the paper and just looking at the team names and how they match up, doesn't necessarily tell the end story all the time. In the NFL, it's the most even league out of any league. So, even the bad teams can end up being, decent for a game or two or a quarter or two, at this point in the season. 9-yard pass there by Burrow to Pirine, Samaje. And then you got Smith and Gilman with the tackle. 4th down and 8 at the Cincinnati 35. But that's what makes it exciting. Obviously, when you end up not beating a team that you should be blowing out by 20, like the Titans, it kind of stings a little bit, but it would sting more if you lost. But again, there's always going to be those games where, oh man, I don't know if we can win this game. And then you end up winning and maybe in nice fashion. And then, the world can rejoice, But again, a lot of times you're not going to get exactly what you want every single matchup. Also, injuries, home and road, turf and grass, if it's night or day, if it's in the U.S. or in a foreign country, sometimes those other factors will play a part in the outcome as well, as everyone knows. And that's going to be a punt here for the Bengals, not as successful as that first drive. And we will see if the Bengal defense can somehow have a miracle and get a stop on Lamar. Easier said than done. Yeah, I mean, you know how fans are. I mean, there's different levels of fans. There's bandwagon fans, that only watch when their team is good. There's fair weather fans that watch once in a while. There's hardcore fans that are in it, all the time. And then there's like fanatics that we're watching pretty much every game, beginning to end. We're not really missing any plays. If we got to record the game, we'll definitely, watch it, as soon as we can if we got something going on. So again, not every fan is, built the same way, and not every fan is going to think the same way. Some are going to be more intelligent than others. They're going to know a little bit more. And, the more information that then that'll give you maybe more of an idea how the game is going to play out. But sports is unpredictable. You never really know how things are going to shake out. You have an idea, but sometimes that idea doesn't come to fruition. 1st down and 10 at the Baltimore 14. And we will see now if Lamar can lead his team all the way down the field for another touchdown. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. My boy. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Gained a couple subs since our last commercial break. And we're going to have an amazing slate of games as we go into the weekend. Looking forward to Bears, Eagles. obviously tomorrow. And then we will be doing the Broncos and Commanders on Sunday night, Giants and Patriots on Monday. And then I'm really looking forward to the Ducks and the Huskies on Saturday afternoon. Yeah, I mean, at this point, with the NFC West being so competitive besides the Cardinals, I mean, everyone is going to be on, not very good terms. Rams fans, Niner fans, Hawk fans, they all hate each other. They all know that they're battling out for playoff positioning, and it's just going to make the rivalries even higher now, where, the Niners and the Seahawks, kind of were the main rivals. But now the Seahawks and the Rams are kind of the best teams, even though the Niners have had injuries and they haven't played pretty all the time. The difference between the Niners and the Buccaneers, with the injuries, is that they have injuries, but they've been able to have great coaching. The Buccaneers have not. And again, we've been exploited on defense. They have not. They got Robert Saleh. We do not. And again, the rivalries are just going to get spicier and spicier as we get further along. Mike in the building. What's good? May or Hurts this week? That is a good question. Well, if you look at Drake May, they're going against the Giants at home, so that's very intriguing, right? And then obviously you're going against the Bears defense if you're Jalen, and we know Jalen can run and he can end up, scoring with his legs. I think the safe route would go Drake May because the Giants defense isn't the greatest at times. Dart's injured, Malik Neighbors, Scattaboo, but again, they still have a few guys that can make plays, like Kayvon Thibodeau, but you would assume that Drake May should be able to get at least a couple touchdown passes in that game. But the same thing could be said for Hurts. He might be able to get one or two in the air and maybe one on the ground with a tush push. But I think the safe choice would be May. But if you're a gambler, you can go Jalen Hurts. At the end of the day, you would assume Jalen and the Eagles will win. But again, the Bears have been playing easy opponents, but they've been winning. So, the Bears could, I don't know if they could win it, but it's possible. You never know. 1 yard pass from Lamar to Zay Flowers. Carter with the tackle. 3rd down and 9 at the Baltimore 15. But that's what I would be going to, Bob. Thinking Drake May is the safe, smart choice. But if you're ballsy and you want to roll the dice, then you can go Hurts. And they should still be able to get similar points, you would think. Maybe a little bit more upside with Hurts because he can actually run for a touchdown. Not something that you're normally going to see Drake May. So more of Drake May's touchdowns are typically through the air. Not to say that Drake May can't scramble in for a touchdown. He can, but the two guys that score the most in the air and on the ground are obviously Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. So, but you would think that the Bears defense will be a little bit better than the Giants. So I think Drake May might have a killer game on Monday night. And Lamar Jackson sacked and fumbled. Recovered by Cincinnati. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is. Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. And without T-Rex playing, how did this happen? Wow. And the ball lands right into his hands. Unbelievable. And now the Bengals are going to take the lead while they hand the ball off to Chase Brown on the next play. Wow. And again, when we see T-Rex, he's the type of guy that makes a play like that. But that was insane. Osai, unbelievable. Look at this pressure off the edge. And then Lamar turns around and he feels the pressure, and then the ball comes out and then right into the other defender's hands. And again, I was a little worried about the Bengal defense today, but the Bengal defense says, oh, dog, don't worry. T-Rex may not be playing, but we got you. We're going to make it exciting on Thanksgiving evening. Thank you so much. Wow. And not what Lamar was expecting one bit. And it feels like maybe this is going to be a little bit closer of a matchup here tonight, if the Bengals can get plays like that on defense once in a while. Shotgun set, Burrow, floater, back of the end zone. Why are we throwing on 1st and goal at the 2-yard line? Hand the ball off. 2nd and goal, P. Ryan up the middle. No gain. Why are you going to P. Ryan? Go to Chase Brown. 3rd and goal. Come on, Bengals. Sutton, Neal, or Swift? Probably Sutton. Not to say the others can't get the job done, but, Sutton is Bo Nix's number one target. J.K. Dobbins is out. So they got R.J. Harvey on the ground. But Cortland Sutton, besides Troy Franklin, that's going to be Bo Nix's main guy most of the time. Besides Ingram at tight end. So I think Sutton might be the best choice out of those three. And Burrow, pass incomplete. And now it's 4th and goal at the Baltimore 2. Do you go for 3 again? I mean, you got the turnover right there. And again, when you can't effectively call plays correctly, sometimes, you get stonewalled at the 2-yard line. Like, why didn't Chase Brown get 3 chances in a row up the middle or bouncing it to the outside? There is no reason to give anyone else the ball in this situation. Even Jamar Chase, you risk a chance of throwing it and getting it tipped and intercepted, just like we saw, Bryce Young on the Panthers when they had the ball on the 1 and the 2. And they decide to go for it. Dumb decision. Incomplete to Gesicki. What are you doing, Bengals? Unbelievable. And that's the difference between when you have good play calling and bad play calling. Appreciate that, Bob. Again, you get this amazing turnover to swing the momentum. You're down at the 2-yard line after you end up getting the sack and the interception, and that's the best play calling you have against the Ravens on the 2? I mean, for just those 3 plays that they ran, they deserve to lose. Again, pound the rock, up the middle, trust your back. Now, if Joe Mixon was on the team, they would have ran with him. Why can't they give Chase Brown that same kind of confidence? Unreal. And you don't get a touchdown, you don't get 3, you get absolutely nothing. And now it's going to be 7-3 Baltimore. Unbelievable. But now you still have them backed up, so you do have a chance, to be able to get possibly a safety, or maybe a quick 3 and out where you're going to get good field position and you might get the ball at the 50. But again, every single play that they called for the wrong player. That last play on 4th down, if you're going to run like a slant or a pass like that, then you go to Jamar Chase in that situation. No other player. You don't go to Gesicki on 4th down. Come on, Burrow. Happy Thanksgiving 2025. Packers 31, Lions 24. Fantastic game for the Packers. If Amon-Ra St. Brown didn't get hurt on the first play, maybe the Lions win. That was a huge loss for them. Cowboys 31, Chiefs 28. A springboard win for the Cowboys. They might make the playoffs. No joke. A 6-5 record. The Chiefs are 6-6, but they feel like they're going in the opposite direction. The Cowboys are 6-5. They look like they're trending upwards. Chiefs trending downwards. And then now we got a Ravens 7-3 lead. And the Ravens are 6-5, started off 1-5. And we assume that they are not only going to win the division over Pittsburgh, but again, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And it shows you how valuable Lamar is to this Baltimore Raven team. HBO Max. Yeah, I saw they had a lot of discounts for like Paramount Plus and a lot of the other streaming sites and whatnot, stars and whatnot, but it kind of just depends on like what is actually on there, to watch to make it worth it. I mean, I already got, Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and Apple TV Plus. And luckily, since, I got T-Mobile, a lot of those things are free for me, through my phone, plan and whatnot, which is great. But some of those deals are pretty intriguing. It just kind of depends on would I actually watch some of the material on these particular shows. And sometimes it's like you have to subscribe just for like one show, and there's nothing really that special other than that maybe one show that you're really wanting to watch. But yeah, haven't really decided if I'm going to take advantage of any of those deals that I've seen, but don't think I'm going to do the Stars one. If I were to do one, it would be that HBO Max or maybe the Paramount Plus or like the new South Park season or something. Lamar Jackson, pass incomplete, short middle to DeAndre Hopkins, and now it's 3rd down and 10 at the Baltimore 2. Well, you're never alone when you're a part of the NWSF, Mike. regardless if we're doing Mariners or if we're doing football or something else, this is a family. We may not be blood, but it's always extended here on the YouTube family. And we appreciate everyone wanting to be able to spend some time, 2 to 3 hours a day with the NWSF. 7-3 Baltimore. And it's good. It's good for my mental health. It's good for your guys' mental health. And, everyone has plenty of things that they have on their plate. And sometimes it's just kind of nice, to be able to escape a little bit and have some fun watching a game together, just like why people escape and play video games, a couple hours a day, sometimes just to get out of the harsh realities of the world and just to be able to have fun for a few hours. Lamar Jackson, pass incomplete to Zay Flowers. Good pressure on these 3 passes and plays by the Cincinnati Bengal defense on Lamar. And now it's 4th down and 10, and they're going to end up getting the punt. And again, if they end up getting some good pressure, you would assume that this will eventually lead to the field goal that they could have had if they just would have kicked it instead of being overly aggressive, or maybe even a touchdown. False start on the Ravens, and that'll back them up even further. 4th down and 11 at the 1 now. And now they run the risk of stepping in the back of the end zone. Let's see what the Bengals end up doing. As long as they don't end up, getting roughing the kicker, you'll be good to go. Running into the kicker would only be a 5-yard penalty, but if you get roughing, that'll be automatic 1st down. So. Yeah, and I noticed that South Park is on the new Paramount Plus. I think that's the only place you can get it unless you have cable or whatnot with Comedy Central. So, all right, Jordan Stout with the punt. And a little 7-yard gain there by Charlie Jones, the wide receiver. 1st down and 10 at the Cincinnati 47. Great field position here for Joe Burrow and the Bengals on their 3rd drive. Weather's been a little rainy out here in the Pacific Northwest, but still have been able to get my walks in with the pup. And again, we're doing very, very well. Looking forward to another evening late walk. Watching some Stranger Things after obviously this is over, and looking forward to Bears Eagles tomorrow, Huskies and Ducks on Saturday, and then obviously going through the rest of the Sunday night, Monday night schedule. It's gonna be fun. Almost blocked there. Great pressure there by the Bengals on that punt. 1st down and 10. Chase Brown towards that left end. And that's a 1-yard gain. Buchanan with the good coverage in the tackle. 2nd down and 9 at the Cincinnati 48. How's the job going? It's same job that you've been at for a while. You like it? Sometimes it takes a while to be able to find a job that you like, when you get bounced around from one job to the next, and sometimes you don't like the managers or the pay's not as good, and it's nice always to be able to find something that you feel comfortable with and you like the people you work with. So shotgun set, and Drew Sample off to that right side for 3 yards. The tight end, Brent Urban with the tackle. And that's going to be 3rd down and 6 at the Baltimore 49. Should have went to Chase Brown on that last drive. Just kind of makes you wonder, what these, head coaches and offensive coordinators, that are calling the plays, like, do they not understand their personnel on their strengths and weaknesses? It's just mind-boggling on some of these missed opportunities, but that's maybe why the Bengals are 3-8, other than just Burrow being injured. If your head coach isn't the best play caller, sometimes it's going to leave points on the table. Just look at the Detroit Lions. Not the same, without Ben Johnson calling plays, not even close. And we got a little screen pass there, but that's going to end up being a penalty with a false start. And now that's going to be the end of the first quarter. It's going to be 3rd down and 11 at the Cincinnati 46. 7-3 Baltimore lead. End of the first quarter, 7-3 Ravens. $15 likes, 85 to go. And we're at 14, 86 to go on the Dono train. Jacob in the building, what's good? So if you're just tuning into the matchup, Bengals got off to a fast start. Good drive that almost led to the touchdown, but kind of stalled right there, into the red zone area, just outside the red zone area. Evan McPherson, field goal, 3-0 Bengals. And then Derrick Henry rumbling and a bumbling with a Tyler Loop extra point kick. And after Henry rumbled down the sideline for a 28-yard tutty, 7-3, they ended up getting a turnover, on Lamar. But when they got the ball at the 2, they decided to go for it on 4 straight plays, and they couldn't even get a yard, which was mind-boggling. But, again, at least the Bengal defense is trying out there, and, a close game, at least at this point, and hopefully it will be. But the play calling needs to be a little bit more sharp if you're a Cincinnati Bengal fan or a Burrow guy or girl. Sarah with $1. Appreciate you. Every dollar counts. Paisley will appreciate it. Stacks. Racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Another $1 on the Dono train. Every dollar counts. Got to be able to spend some time with the family's dog out on the property, Lucas. Then my dad's got some property, out in his, particular area where we can walk and run back there, on that grassy area with the property, with the trees and everything else that he's got, buildings and whatnot back there. So it was kind of nice, to be able to get some fresh air and spend some time with Lucas. And again, the food was great. And I'm definitely looking forward to leftovers later tonight, with the turkey. And luckily, the fam ended up doing the turkey and the ham. So I ended up double dipping with that. Mashed potatoes, gravy, pumpkin pie, apple pie, a little bit of everything. So hope everyone is enjoying their Thanksgiving as well. Yeah, I didn't have to worry about my friend dropping off a meal for me this year, which was good, and luckily I have a friend good enough that would do that for me. And, it was great hanging out with him yesterday. We beat a couple arcade games, ended up getting some amazing burgers, and curly fries may have been the best curly fries I've ever had in my life. Like literally fresh out of the oven, right to our plate. Like, I don't think I've ever had them that hot and that crisp and that tasty before. Burger was amazing. And, overall a great time besides the loudmouth that sat behind us. And, we were trying to get tickets for the 4th of July because that's our tradition. We went to go see the Orioles 2 years ago when they were a playoff team, Pirates last year. The Blue Jays are coming to town, and we know the success they had this year in the World Series against the Dodgers, but all the tickets are $200 or more in the lower level. So that's a little bit too much that we would want to spend if we can't be in the first, 15 to 20 rows to get a foul ball from Cal or Julio. So we may have to pivot and go to another game. Because if we're only going to go to one game a year, we want to sit within the first 15 to 20 rows. So a little disappointed about that with the ticket prices being so high for the Blue Jays, but I understand. Ryan running to that right side for a 6-yard gain. 3rd down and 4 at the Baltimore 35. But I mean, I would love to watch the Blue Jays and the Mariners go at it. I feel like Mariners, Astros, Mariners, Yankees, Mariners, Blue Jays. That's the new rivalry for the Mariners now. And, we'll find out what happens with that. Randy Johnson's getting celebrated for the Mariners Hall of Fame on my birthday against the Royals, but we've already seen the Royals with Bobby Witt Jr. before, but maybe we'll go to that instead. I haven't decided just yet. Burrow, short right to Noah Fant, and that's going to be a 3-yard gain. 4th down and 1 at the Baltimore 32. Fourth down and 1 at the Baltimore 32, and they're going to go for it. Joe Burrow right up the middle, 2-yard gain, 1st down, Bengals. 1st down and 10 at the Baltimore 30. Good old Applebee's, huh? And, with the Bengals record, obviously being 3-8, we'll see if they can pull a little bit of a Ravens and Lamar and increase that record if they can start being a little bit more competitive with Burrow if he's able to play the rest of the season. They may be able to get close to 500 before the season's over if Burrow can stay healthy, and then that defense can get a little bit better. First down and 10 at the Baltimore 30. They're definitely going to be wanting a touchdown, but they'll take 3, but hopefully they'll be able to get in the end zone. Shotgun set, Burrow, pass incomplete, short left to Jamar Chase. 2nd down and 10 at the Baltimore 30. Who does Iowa got this weekend? Burrow, pass incomplete to Mitchell Tinsley. 3rd down and 10 at the Baltimore 30. And again, if they were able to have the same, trio of T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and Jamar Chase, obviously that's when Burrow was at his very best. Ooh, Nebraska at 9 a.m. I'm going to wake up. Is that on Fox? Is that the Fox game with Gus and Joel? Because if that's a game with Gus and Joel, I'm watching. I love when Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt call games. I don't even care who's playing. As long as they're calling the game, I know it's going to be fun. Burrow, short middle to Samaje Perine for a 6-yard gain. Kyle Hamilton, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish stud, there in the secondary with the coverage and the tackle. 4th down and 4 at the Baltimore 24. Oh, it's on CBS. Well, even if it's not Gus and Joel, I will definitely tune in. I mean, we're going to end up doing the Bears and the Eagles tomorrow, but it sounds like from what I was looking, there are a few college football games on tomorrow. Field goal attempt is up and good. And that's a smart decision by Cincinnati to take the points while they're there. And again, the game is a little bit closer than people maybe anticipated. 7-6, Ravens lead now. Oh, yeah, that's right. Michigan, Ohio State on Saturday. That's right. I was going to say, that's huge. If Michigan beats Ohio State, then Oregon plays Indiana in the Big Ten championship. But at this point, it doesn't really matter because that's just one more game that you could potentially lose. And, if Oregon ends up being the 5 or the 6 seed, that might play into our favor like the Buckeyes last year where the top 4 teams get the bye, right? Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, and Georgia. And if they have 2 to 3 weeks off, maybe those teams will lose like last year's teams. And then if Oregon can be one of the best teams that's not in the bye, maybe we can, repeat one the Buckeyes did last year. At least that's what we're going to hope for. Nice kick by Evan McPherson, 7-6, Ravens. Good action so far. We do want that Burrow to Chase connection, and again, if we can get them in the end zone once or twice, that could be the difference in winning this game or at least keeping the game close. I don't think you anticipate the Bengals getting any turnovers on the Ravens, and we've already gotten one, but they couldn't even get any points off of it. And again, if you're going to beat Baltimore on the road and you don't really have a defense, you have to take advantage of every play the defense makes because they're not good. And again, they definitely fumbled the bag on that particular drive where they got the turnover on Lamar and had the ball at the 2 and decided to, throw the football and run with the wrong player, but maybe they'll figure it out the next time around. Happy Thanksgiving 2025. Nice. Sounds like you got a lot of that stuff out of the way already. I haven't done anything of that nature just yet, but I ended up getting a little, mini Christmas tree for Paisley, with just a little bit of lights, just to kind of spruce up, the house and whatnot, something, everyone's a little bit different with the real trees and the fake trees, but usually right at Thanksgiving or right after Thanksgiving, some people wait a little bit closer to Christmas, but it's good to be able to have that Christmas spirit, even if it is Thanksgiving, getting things all situated. So. Sounds like you're on it. McPherson kicks off 60 yards. And Rasheen Ali with a nice 26-yard return. First down and 10 at the Baltimore 31 in a very back-and-forth matchup here between the Bengals and the Ravens, the last NFL game here on Thanksgiving. Thunder and Warriors on Tuesday. The NBA still is nowhere near, being as popular as some of the other sports. But again, they have been gaining a little bit of ground with NBC and Prime this season. The overall product is still, needs to be fixed, but going to NBC and Prime have helped a little. The only thing that they need to do now besides, figure out, the matchups on NBC, and they got the old school music back in the Jordan era. They just need better announcers, from some of the stuff that I've seen this year. Lamar Jackson on first down and 10 at the Baltimore 31. Pass to Mark Andrews, incomplete. And hopefully Mark Andrews will be able to get going here in the second quarter or beyond. Second down and 10 at the Baltimore 31. Yeah, she would love that. I try to spoil her to the best of my ability, since she's pretty much, I got to be the dog father, and she's my daughter. And, anytime that I can end up, taking care of her with, treats or, toys or greenies, for her teeth to make her teeth, have fresh breath and, keep the plaque off. I'm always trying to do whatever I can to make sure that she's living her best life. Lamar, shotgun set. And this time goes to Mark Andrews again. And this time it's caught. Third down and 4 at the Baltimore 37. And that's one thing, about Lamar. If it doesn't work one time, sometimes he'll go back to that same player to try to gain that chemistry instead of fading that player. And, you might go to Mark Andrews once. Oh, he dropped it or he missed it. But instead of not going to him for like a quarter, and trying to like punish him, they're going to go right back to that guy to see if he can, make up, for that particular play. And the throw could have been a little bit better by Lamar. And then obviously, you expect Mark Andrews to, come up a lot of the times with those catches, but we'll see if they can keep moving the chains here. Shotgun set, Lamar scrambled to that right side. Nice 6-yard gain. Demetrius Knight Jr. with the coverage and tackle, the Bengal linebacker, number 44. First down and 10 at the Baltimore 43. Shotgun set, Lamar Going deep to Devontae Walker, incomplete. Second down and 10 at the Baltimore 43. And we still have been waiting on the big play from Burrow to Chase, as well as from Lamar to Zay Flowers. And you know eventually it's going to happen. It's just when. Yeah, Paisley appreciates all the love and support that she can get, and obviously I got to grind it out to be able to, just pay off the basic stuff, streaming, internet, regular stuff, and then everything else goes towards her. Nice hustle there by Lamar. Shotgun set on first down and 10. Lamar, short right. Keaton Mitchell is there. First down, Ravens. Nice 12-yard pass from Lamar to Keaton Mitchell. First down and 10 at the Cincinnati 45. Move the chains. Yeah, I ended up getting a rain jacket for Paisley. I've been wanting one for the last couple years, but they never had one that I liked to my standard. And Petco has got some new ones that just came out, gray and black. They're kind of universal, where you can wear it for a boy or a girl dog. And man, they're fantastic. So, rain, sleet, snow, me and Paisley will definitely be bundled up. Shotgun set. Mitchell runs towards that right side for a yard. Hill and Foskey with the tackle. Second down and 9 at the Cincinnati 44. Baltimore up 7-6 with about 8:32 left here in the second quarter before halftime in a competitive matchup where the Bengals don't really have a defense, and you would assume the Ravens will run away with this. But again, Bengals have actually made some plays on D, and really the only thing that's holding them back from having the lead is their head coach calling plays. But it does feel like the Ravens are starting to gain a little Uncle Mo and momentum. I'm still waiting for Zay Flowers for that big splash play. Second down and 9 at the Cincinnati 44. Happy Thanksgiving 2025. Wild that it's already Thanksgiving. I mean, the time has gone by so quick. Baseball season was such a fun time. And then obviously the transition into the NFL season and college football has been exciting. And again, pretty soon it'll be Christmas, it'll be New Year's. And then before you know it, it'll be March and we'll be back into baseball season before you know it. Shotgun set, Lamar, little check down, nice catch, there he goes, the 10, the 5, touchdown, he fumbled, that might be a touchback, they call it touchdown, but did he lose control? Wow, Isaiah Likely with the touchdown, but did he lose the ball before getting in, and then it rolled out of bounds? That, I don't know, we got to see a replay there. I don't think that was a touchdown. I think that was a touchback. And again, unfortunately, players end up dropping the ball before they get into the end zone or they get it knocked out prior. And that is not a touchdown. That is not a touchdown. Unbelievable defense by the Bengals. And we never say that. And maybe if it's like Trey Hendrickson. But again, the Bengals are making enough defensive plays in this first half to prevent being blown out. And again, kudos to them. And if you're Isaiah Likely right now, you're sick to your stomach. You're not getting any turkey. You're not getting any gravy. You're not getting any stuffing. You got to hand on to that football, my guy. Wow. Which should have been a 14-6 lead turns into a touchback. Unbelievable. First down and 10. And that's going to be holding on the offensive line there. 10-yard penalty. That looked like it's Noah Fant that is the guilty party there. First down and 20 at the Cincinnati 10. Yeah, and again, sometimes when we end up having, dogs and pups, it ends up being in our life at the time that we need it the most. It's like if you have depression or if you have anxiety or if you have a lot of craziness going on in your life and, whether you not, have kids of your own, sometimes being able to have that comfort, of that, pet that can be there for you, day in and day out really does make a difference. Definitely has changed my life for sure. Shotgun set for Joe Burrow. Short middle to Chase Brown. Nice 8-yard pass. Now it's going to be 2nd down and 12 at the Cincinnati 18. Yeah, Paisley's been a blessing in my life. And again, I will definitely go above and beyond, the amount of time of exercise and love and energy put in, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Shotgun set, Burrow, short right to Mike Gesicki. Nice catch there, 11-yard pass, close to the first down, 3rd down and 1 at the Cincinnati 29. Yeah, I couldn't even imagine my life, without the Paisley pup, that's for sure. Shotgun set, and Chase Brown up the middle, 3-yard gain. Jones and Gilman with the tackle. And that's going to be 1st down and 10 at the Cincinnati 32. I'm very impressed with Cincinnati's defense, here on the road in a game where, a lot of people thought, well, the first 2 games were close. This is going to be a blowout. Ravens are going to win even if Burrow plays. Not so fast. Perine shotgun set up the middle for 3 yards. 1st down, Bengals. 1st down and 10 at the Cincinnati 32. Shotgun set. Burrow going deep to Jamar. He's open. Oh, baby. 1st down, Bengals. That's exactly what I've been waiting for all fucking day. 43-yard pass by Burrow to Chase. Move the chains. 1st down, Bengals. Hoo-day. Wow. That's exactly the spark that they needed. Here we go. And there might be a good opportunity for Jamar or Chase Brown to get in the end zone now. I mean, you can't just kick field goals against the Ravens. At some point, you're going to need to get at least a tutty or 2. Yeah, I am too. The Bengals might suck ass overall, but Burrow, when healthy, is a top 10 quarterback. And let's be honest, he's one of the most likable quarterbacks in the NFL. You got Jalen Hurts, you got Josh Allen, you got a lot of these, quarterbacks that are new and they're old, Lamar, and again, it's always nice to be able to see, Burrow doing Burrow things. Plus, it makes Jamar Chase that much of a better player, the connection they have from LSU to Cincinnati. Great play. Chase Brown off to that right side for a 5-yard gain. Buchanan and Hamilton with the tackle. 2nd down and 5 at the Baltimore 20. And if the play calling can be crisp here, they possibly could get in the end zone. They can't have any self-inflicted wounds like, an illegal shift or holding on the O-line. And as soon as I say that, shotgun set, and we get a false start on Orlando Brown Jr. Come on, Orlando. I mean, just when they're starting to get closer to the red zone, we can't have that. 2nd down and 10 at the Baltimore 25. And hopefully next Thanksgiving schedule will be similar to this one. But again, I don't think I've ever seen 3 quality games on a Thanksgiving. It's usually 1 that's good out of 3. And today it's been a treat. Packers and Lions, fantastic. Chiefs and Cowboys, perfect matchup of 2 teams that are very evenly matched that delivered. And then with this matchup here, Burrow back against Lamar, sign me up. Shotgun set, Burrow incomplete short right to Jamar Chase. And that's going to be 3rd down and 10 at the Baltimore 25. And again, if they aren't able to get, a 1st down here, it's going to end up being 9-7 momentarily with another field goal. Here we go. Burrow, shotgun set. Short right. Jamar is there. There we go. 15-yard pass. I like it. Burrow and Chase are on a nice heater right here. Good connection. 1st and goal at the Baltimore 10. And he's already gone to Jamar twice on this drive. So we'll see if they try to get Jamar into the end zone. And if it's not him, Chase Brown still is waiting in the wings to be able to strike. Remember, no T. Higgins with the concussion here today, and no Trey Hendrickson as well on the defensive side. Obviously, if T. Higgins was playing, that would give Burrow another great option to score. Shotgun set, Burrow going to Gesicki, and incomplete. Chase is such a good route runner that there's not very many DBs that can match up one-on-one. Great route runner, great hands, great athletic ability. It's just about being able to get the right play call in the right down. Yeah, well, Addison, pretty much everyone that's on that team, and it shows you draft the wrong quarterback, you're going backwards, imagine if the Vikings would have got like Jackson Dart or something, of that nature, like how much better that team would have been, even though Dart ended up getting injured for New York, but that would have been the type of quarterback that the Vikings needed. Back of the end zone, incomplete. Shotgun set. P. Ryan runs through that right side, 4-yard run, 3rd down and goal at the Baltimore 6. Yeah, but for pretty much everybody, on offense for that squad, it's just, not ideal. But they have had, some moments, with Sam Darnold and Kirk Cousins, and Jetta is probably wishing he had those guys back. Burrow, incomplete to Jamar Chase, and now it's going to be 4th and goal at the Baltimore 6, and at this point, you have to take the field goal. You just can't leave points on the board. Take the field goal, take the 9-7 lead, and again, the defense has been able to keep Baltimore to just a Derrick Henry touchdown, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, well, let's be honest. Both of them aren't the greatest. I think that's a fair statement. I don't think I would want either one. Field goal is up by McPherson, and it is good. 9-7 Bengals. And again, they're finally getting close, with Burrow, but they're just not able to punch it in. But maybe, they'll be able to get a long touchdown throw where it doesn't have a drive get stalled within the 20-yard line. If they can end up throwing a, 40-yard touchdown pass, around the 40, 45-yard line, and then there's no other plays. He just gets into the end zone. That might be the only way that you get that deep Chase touchdown in the second half. Yeah, well, I'm not sure if either have any upside, but, the teams that end up getting those players in the future, they'll hope so. Nice 11-play, 74-yard drive there by Cincinnati, obviously getting a touchdown from Burrow to Chase. But again, it's Burrow's first game back, and I don't really think it's on Burrow on a lot of these, plays. A lot of it is on, the head coach and the OC, not the greatest play calls. And, the more experience that Burrow can get after this injury with Jamar and company, the better that they'll be. And honestly, if T. Higgins was playing, maybe we would have already had a touchdown by now, so that way Jamar's not getting double teamed with the safety over the top. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Gained a couple more subs since the last commercial break. And we only need 24 subs to get to 23,300. Let's get it, baby. I agree. It just sucks that he ended up getting the fracture, and whatnot. But again, you definitely have seen some of these pieces go to, other locations and have success. And again, the number one thing I love about Daniel Jones the most And I've said this about the broadcast before, that before every huddle, before he goes into the plays, when they start the plays, he goes up to every player, that's in the huddle, looks him in the eye, gives him the dap, the high five, looks him in the eye, and gets them on the same page. And that's true leadership. And again, you don't really see quarterbacks, typically do that all the time. Every once in a while, you'll see the quarterback try to lock in with the offensive line, the running backs, the wide receivers, and the tight ends. But almost every game that I've watched with Daniel Jones, he does it pretty frequently, to try to get everyone on the same page. And it's worked. And I love that type of leadership out of Daniel, for a guy that was, Danny Dimes and, they gave up on him. But sometimes it's the destination, New York, not the player. And again, teams fail players more than players fail teams, especially if the coaching isn't there. And, one team's garbage can be another team's gold. And I know that you're happy with him in Indianapolis, and I am too. McPherson kicks 59 yards and a nice 28-yard return by Keaton Mitchell. First down and 10 at the Baltimore 34. Just sucks about the fracture and whatnot, but hopefully it won't be magnified anymore the rest of the way. Yeah, he's got good rapport with the receivers and the tight ends, obviously with Tyler Warren being great, Michael Pittman, Pierce, and obviously it definitely helps when Jonathan Taylor is the best back in the whole entire NFL. And the defense, again, was a question mark coming into the year. How good would they be? And again, they've complimented, Daniel Jones on that other side of the ball pretty well. You get pretty good balance out of the Colts offense and defense like the Patriots and Drake May. Shotgun set, Lamar, incomplete, going deep to Rashad Bateman, incomplete. Second down and 10 at the Baltimore 34. Lamar going deep. Isaiah Likely is there. Oh, baby. First down, Ravens. And obviously Isaiah Likely still feeling sick about that touchdown that he gave away that turned into a touchback. He said, let me get that 30-yard pass, Lamar. Action Jackson. First down, Ravens. And now that's going to be the 2-minute warning. You're definitely starting to get some good chemistry on the deep throws for Lamar. I'm still waiting for the Lamar Zay Jones, opportunity. We'll probably have to wait till the second half for that to happen. And also, Lamar needs to use his legs and run. And I'm not saying a lot, but there's going to have to be a few plays in the second half to get a few extra yards and move the chains. That's what you want from your leader. Baker Mayfield's the same way. Everyone else is showing up at, 6 a.m. He's there in the building at 4:45, a.m., And again, if you have guys like that are dedicated, to not only getting better themselves, but, being the leader for the team, what you do on and off the field definitely will carry over to the teammates and the coaches. 100%. I agree. First down and 10 at the Cincinnati 36, and a good one here. 9-7 Bengals. And again, I do believe the scoring will get better in the second half. And again, Baltimore had a chance to be able to get that second touchdown after Derrick Henry to Isaiah Likely, but he got the ball poked away at the half-yard line and then went into the back of the end zone, as it always does, right? And then touchdown gets taken away and turns into a touchback. So Bengals, even though their defense is not very good, they've played pretty good today, and they definitely have given everything that they have in this trap game for the Ravens. Yeah, just sucks that he ended up having that, low grain sprain, and hopefully he'll be able to play this weekend, but I don't want to rush him back. I want to make sure that he's good to go. But anytime you have a shoulder strain or an AC joint, again, it's going to be lingering. And luckily it was low grade. It wasn't season ending, but our defense and coaching has not been good this year. And again, we're going to get Bucky Irving back. Godwin is back. We're still waiting on Jamel Dean and Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan. But hopefully, the defense won't be as bad as it's been. But again, we've also have had the hardest schedule out of any NFL team the last 2 months. I mean, it's hard to win games when you're going against the Eagles and then the Seahawks and then the Patriots and the Bills and the Rams. Like, you know, give me a break. Where's the bad teams? I mean, we had one bad team in 2 months, the Saints, and then every other team that we played was a playoff team. So now the schedule gets really easy, but now all the games are going to be trap games for the Bucs the rest of the way. We have the easiest schedule the rest of the way, but the way that our defense has been playing and the way that the play calling has been coming out on the offense, and now with the injury to Baker, I'm concerned. I think we can still win the NFC South, over the Panthers and the Falcons and the Saints. But, are we actually going to make a deep run? It doesn't seem like it. It seems like we would be that team that would probably go to the playoffs and lose in the first round. I wish we were good enough to make it to the NFC Championship game this year. And in the first 3 weeks of the season, it looked like it with Baker with those comebacks. But the defense can't stop a nosebleed. And if you don't have defense, defense wins games, defense wins championships. If you don't got defense, you're not doing anything. Yeah, Zay is playing, but they haven't got him the ball yet. And Lamar. And there's Zay. Touchdown, Ravens. But that's going to be offensive pass interference. And I believe it's on Zay. Another touchdown taken off the board for the Baltimore Ravens. Unbelievable. First, you had a touchdown to Isaiah Likely that gets poked out at the half-yard line and then rolls to the back of the end zone. And now you get Zay Flowers pushing off, and he ends up getting the touchdown, but it gets nullified with the offensive pass interference, which is the correct call. Unbelievable. You didn't need to push off there, Zay. And that turns into first down and 20. Lamar, shotgun set, short left to DeAndre Hopkins. 10-yard gain, Stone with the coverage. Second down and 10 at the Cincinnati 36, and the Ravens are shooting themselves in the foot in a game where, a lot of people thought this would be a blowout. Not so fast. I mean, the Ravens could have 21 points right now, but again, self-inflicted wounds and mistakes. Shotgun set, Lamar, short right to Isaiah Likely, and complete. Third down and 10 at the Cincinnati 36. And for a lower scoring game, we've had a lot of action. It's just some of the drives have been stalled for the Bengals and leading to field goals instead of touchdowns. And then the Ravens are just shooting themselves in the foot, preventing them from being up 21-9 right now. But at least it makes the game more exciting going into the second half, thinking that, hey, the Bengals actually have a chance to upset the Ravens. But if the Bengals are going to win, they're going to have to get at least a touchdown in the second half, preferably 2. Third down and 10 at the Cincinnati 36 with less than 2 minutes to go here in the second quarter before halftime is up. And timeout there by Cincinnati. It's 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. Big sack lunch there. And then the timeout is called. Unbelievable. Stout with the punt. And that's going to turn into a touchback. Nice job by Osai, making it 4th down and 19. And now it's going to be 1st down and 10 at the Cincinnati 20 for Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Are they able to drive it down the field for a long McPherson field goal? Or are they finally going to get in the end zone with Jamar Chase or one of the other options on offense before half? Really? How much snow? Like a few inches of snow, or like blizzard type of conditions? Like, are you gonna get like a foot of snow, or a few inches of snow? Going to a commercial break. We got 1:35 left before halftime. Oh, that's a good amount. Is that going to affect your work schedule of being able to get in? See what the rest of the games are. We got Bears and Eagles at noon tomorrow on Prime. I will be live streaming that. And on Sunday, we got Niners Browns, trap game for the Niners. Jags and Titans, trap game for the Jags. Texans and Colts should be a good one. Saints and Dolphins. Falcons and Jets, the battle of the bads. Buccaneers and Cardinals, let's go Bucks. Rams and Panthers, trap game for the Rams. Vikings and Seahawks, go Hawks. Bills and Steelers should be competitive. Raiders and Chargers. Broncos and Commanders on Sunday night. We'll be doing that game. Go Bo Nix. And then we got the Giants and the Patriots on Monday night. Now, if the Giants had Dart and Scatterboo and Neighbors, that would make that matchup a little bit more intriguing. But obviously, if it's Jameis Winston or, whoever they decide to throw out there, you would assume it could get ugly. But, not the greatest matchup when you have those two teams play, even though the Patriots are good this year. But we will see how that will play out. All right, here we go. First down and 10. Chase Brown off that left side towards that guard. And Gilman with the tackle. Nice 12-yard run there by Chase Brown. First down and 10 at the Cincinnati 32. Move the chains. Who day? See if we can get a deep pass connected with Burrow. But I like that run, slicing and dicing the Raven defense right up the middle. No huddle, shotgun set, and Orlando Brown Jr. again, another false start. Somebody's not getting turkey tonight. And another self-inflicted wound for the Bengals when Burrow is just trying to get a little bit of rhythm. First down and 15 at the Cincinnati 27. No more false starts, Orlando Brown Jr. No turkey, no ham, no stuffing, no gravy, no rolls, no sides, no cranberry, nothing. No pie. Shotgun set, Burrow short left to Chase Brown. And that's going to be around a 5-yard pass there. Second down and 10 at the Cincinnati 32. I believe the Ravens get it in the second half. And that's going to be a timeout, Cincinnati. And Burrow just trying to get into a rhythm, and he's had a few pretty good throws, but the Raven defense has been able to collapse more times than not. But But a nice catch there on 2nd down and 10 that turns into a 1st down. Tinsley there with the catch, and that will turn into a timeout there by Cincinnati. And, a few more splash plays like that, they'll be able to get into field goal range and maybe even a long touchdown. Once we actually get into halftime in like 58 seconds, I'll know for sure. It'll pop up and let me know. So, but just based off memory, I'm pretty sure Baltimore gets it. So, since the Bengals were able to get a field goal, I believe on the first drive of the game, I believe they were the ones that got the ball first. But yeah, I think every Cowboy fan right now is excited, that they actually kind of feel like a playoff team. Even though their record is around 500, but it feels like one team is going, in the right direction, Cowboys, and then the other team and the Chiefs are around 500, and they look like they're going in the opposite direction. So, and again, I thought that was the most even matchup for the Chiefs that you could have, at this point. And, the Cowboys got the job done. Dak is a lot better than people want to give him credit for. Sideline throw, incomplete to Tinsley. Kyle Hamilton with the coverage. I think he got 1 foot down, not 2. And a hurry up here with the shotgun set. Burrow, short middle, incomplete. And now it's going to be 3rd down and 10 at the Cincinnati 46. Oh, interesting. I went to the Big Ten headquarters in Chicago. Third down and 10 at the Cincinnati 46 after that good pressure by the Ravens. Shotgun set, Burrow, short left to Jamar Chase, incomplete. And that's going to be 4th down and 10 at the Cincinnati 46. Yeah, there hasn't been a whole lot of action. Obviously, the Blue Jays got themselves a new pitcher this morning. And Raquel with a 54-yard punt into the back of the end zone, which will turn into a touchback. And it's going to be 1st down and 10 at the Baltimore 20 for Lamar. Cease with the Blue Jays. I know the Blue Jays want Schwarber as well, but, we'll see what they have money-wise. Uzier all over Jamar. All right, let's see if Baltimore can get a field goal or a touchdown here. They got 36 seconds left, so see if they can at least maybe get into field goal range for a long field goal attempt here before halftime on Thanksgiving. Definitely looking forward to my next plate. It's been a few hours. Looking forward to spending some time with Paisley as well. And again, we will be live early at noon tomorrow for the Bears and the Eagles. And if the Bears defense shows up, it could be closer than people think. Even though the Bears have had an extremely easy schedule up to this point, but still got to give Ben Johnson credit. But now he's going to get thrown into the gauntlet where the schedule gets, maybe the hardest the rest of the way. So we'll find out if the Bears are actually a playoff team or a pretender. And obviously we know the Packers and the Lions are, going at it, for position in the NFC North. Will Chicago be a factor? We'll find out. But again, if they do beat the Eagles tomorrow, that's going to be a big springboard win to give them the confidence that they can actually beat a good team, which they really haven't done yet this season. Crazy to say that you've played, almost 3 months of football and you haven't really played a good team yet. But if you look at the Bears schedule, you'll see why. But it definitely gets much, much tougher the rest of the way. And if you can win some of those games, it will turn some people into believers, maybe not into Caleb, Williams, but definitely with Ben Johnson as head coach. And obviously offensive play caller. 9-7 Bengals, 36 seconds left as we wait for a commercial break. Happy Thanksgiving 2025 to everyone. Yeah, baseball season can't come soon enough, Sarah. You know that. I don't think I've ever been, this anxious, for baseball to get back started into March. And again, there's a lot of things I love in November and December and January and February as far as like college football, the bowl games, the NFL playoffs, the Super Bowl, the Natty, but I really am excited for March. And Lamar sacked, fumbled. Oh, who got it? I think the Bengals might have got it there. Johnson recovers. Bengals. Wow, it's 12 noon. You know what time it is? Time for a sack lunch. Yum, 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 yum. And again, the Bengals don't have Trey Hendrickson, their best player, but they're playing like they have three of them. And again, the Bengal defense is, playing out of their minds right now. And that was more on Lamar, just kind of losing the football and having it slip out of his hands. But still, the Bengals recovered. And again, the Bengals defense have been very good at this point. Reflect in the building. How are you? I hope you had a good Thanksgiving with the fam. I know you're looking forward to the Ducks and the Huskies. I know that definitely is a game that Oregon could lose. Definitely excited to be able to see, everything that you got at quarterback with Damon Williams, Jonah Coleman at running back, and obviously, with Boston at wide receiver as well. So but Bengals have definitely not shot themselves in the foot, besides a couple false starts by Orlando Brown. But other than that, Burrow has been good. The play calling, obviously on the first turnover when they were on the 2 and they went for it and got nothing, that was kind of not ideal. But again, they've definitely had some extra opportunities, especially when Likely ended up having the ball poked out at the half-yard line. That turned into a touchback. And again, it's like, the Ravens should be able to put away the Bengals. They could be up 21-9 right now. But again, a lot of self-inflicted wounds and a little bit of bad luck. And the Bengals are playing like the more motivated team that wants the turkey at the end of the night. Burrow incomplete to Noah Fant. 3rd down and 7 at the Baltimore 16. Yeah, good luck as well. Yeah, I'll stream the game. You might be busy, with your family or your son and whatnot watching, but, if you have the time, to come through and stop by or to watch along, that would definitely be great. And after that incomplete pass to Noah Fant, nowhere near him. 3rd down and 7 at the Baltimore 16. Let's see if they can find the proper route for Jamar Chase. And again, if T. Higgins was available, maybe they would have already had their first touchdown pass. But, Chase is getting doubled with the safety over the top. Still a great route runner. But who else is going to be able to step up? And, T. Higgins is not available, and they don't have Tyler Boyd anymore. So, they have other guys that are capable, like Tinsley, and that one goes to Tinsley, incomplete. Tampa with coverage. 4th down and 7 at the Baltimore 16. And this should turn into another field goal here by the Bengals. But I'm going to be doing the Bears and Eagles tomorrow at noon for the prime game. And then we'll be doing the Ducks and the Huskies, I believe, at 12:30 Pacific on Saturday. And then Sunday, we'll be doing the Broncos as the field goal is up and good by the Cincinnati Bengals by McPherson. 12-7 lead with 10 seconds left in the second quarter. And then we got Bengals and Commanders. Would be cool if it was Jaden Daniels, but I don't know if it will be. And then obviously the Monday matchup, not the greatest, with the Patriots and the Giants. Now, if Dart, Scattaboo, and Neighbors were playing, then it would be, okay, let's see. But since those guys are out, that one might be a little bit of a clunker, but, still going to be able to stream it, and hopefully the Giants bring a little bit more action with Jameis or whoever they decide to have at quarterback for that game. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dart is out. One day ago, he was a full participant in practice, but I don't know if he'll be ready. I hope he's ready. I hope he's ready to go, because, I mean, it'll at least make that a matchup, watchable if Dart plays. But if Dart doesn't play, I mean, we can always joke and laugh with the sound bites with Jameis, if he's there. But, it would be awesome to be able to see Dart and May go at it. So, but I guess, him doing a full practice is good, but we'll see how his body is feeling Monday night. And Lamar decides to kneel it, and that is going to be halftime. A little bit of a low-scoring affair, but don't get it twisted. I mean, this could easily be a 21-12 game or a 24-12 game, but, Baltimore has had some miscues at home, maybe a little cocky and overconfident, playing against a team that doesn't really normally have a defense in Cincinnati, especially with their best player on D, Trey Hendrickson, not playing, and T. Higgins not playing. But Cincinnati has actually played better on offense and defense with Joe Burrow and with the no-name defense players that they have left on Cincinnati. So, Natman in the building. What's good, brother? Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, only one game on tomorrow for Black Friday for, the prime. I imagine there's just going to be an insane amount of commercials, during the game. Baltimore is going to receive the second half kickoff. But again, it's either doing that game, the Bears and the Eagles, to see if the Bears can find a way to win against a good team for the first time this year. That's intriguing to me, or doing like college football. And I'm already going to be doing Ducks and Huskies on Saturday. So I really want to see Ben Johnson and Caleb. And, I want to see if the Bears defense can, step up to the plate, so to speak, against this Philadelphia Eagle team who got shut out by the Cowboys last weekend. And then obviously we saw the Packers beat the Lions in a shootout. If Amon-Ra doesn't get hurt in the first play, maybe the Lions win. That was a big loss for the Lions, and not having Ben Johnson call plays. They go for it on fourth down so often this year, but they don't convert like they did with Ben Johnson. And then obviously in the Cowboys-Chiefs, I thought that was the most even matchup that you could give Kansas City on Thanksgiving. The Dallas Cowboys, a team that's around 500, but that's playing like they're 3 or 4 games above 500, the Cowboys lately. And, they might not be everyone's cup of tea, but they're playing good ball. And I thought that they were going to beat the Chiefs, and they did. So, it shows you, you might be a top dog for a certain amount of years, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be there forever. And obviously, New England had a little bit of a downfall. Now, you're starting to see it with the Kansas City Chiefs, and it might be a blessing in disguise if they don't make the playoffs and, end up, trying to reload in the draft, and, maybe they can retool their team. But, everyone's run eventually ends up ending, and then you have to regroup, rebuild, and try to be able to find a way to get back to that greatness that they had a few years back. So good. Turkey, ham, stuffing, rolls, gravy, all the sides, apple pie, pumpkin pie, all the pie. Yeah, I haven't had a plate since earlier today, so I'm definitely, after this is over, I'm going to take Paisley on a long walk, and then probably watch Stranger Things, and, get those 4 episodes banged out, and then, obviously be ready for the Bears and the Eagles at noon tomorrow. And then again, we're going to be grinding out, streams every single day. And then once we get to Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll kind of see. I don't really like taking days off, but if we're not going to get support, doing like basketball or hockey, then I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to have to take those days off and then wait, for more football to end up coming in. So, I would like to work 6 or 7 days out of the week, but again, there are going to be a few days where we might just have to work 5 days a week, like kind of like a traditional work schedule, even though that's not my preference, but again, if I'm going to be spending all this time and energy, it has to be worth it. And, I'm just not sure if, basketball and hockey are going to really be worth it, this year, or even transitioning into next year. So, but definitely a lot of bowl games, the college football playoff. And again, we're still going to have plenty of content on the channel. So, yeah, I'll be streaming a lot of college football playoffs, especially, with the NBA and the NHL. It's just a very niche market and whatnot. So it's like, yeah, I'm definitely going to be doing a lot more college football since since I'm going to probably be taking a step back from the NHL and the NBA, and we're just going to focus on MLB, Mariners during baseball season, March through October, November, and then NFL, college football, and then, when we get kind of towards after Super Bowl, then maybe I'll do a little bit of NASCAR. I know I'll be able to get, some people for that. And then obviously once we get into baseball season, we'll transition back to that. So we got less than 8 minutes to go here at halftime. Baltimore is going to receive the second half kickoff. And I appreciate every single one of y'all with the support. Another $1 holla. Every dollar counts for Paisley and the channel. Internet bills, streaming fees, and Paisley's food and maintenance is always a need. So thank you so much. Stacks, Racks, and Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Thank you so much. Every dollar counts. Appreciate you. Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, injuries. We haven't had, Drew Holiday, the starting point guard. Dame's not available. Scoot's not available. Denny Advia's good. He's playing like an all-star. But Sharp got banged up, and they brought him off the bench. So it's if you don't have your starting five, and you're already thin on the bench, you can't have two starters out and think that you're going to compete with everyone else. The West is incredibly deep, and the Kraken have still found a way to be a top 3 seed in their conference. So the Kraken are doing great this year. They look like a playoff team. I was hoping the Blazers would be like an 8 seed, like that last spot. But again, until we get some of our injured guys healthy, then we're probably going to be sitting more in the 9 or the 10, and we're going to have to climb and scrap and fight to be able to get to that 7 or 8 seed by the end of the year. But we'll see how it goes. I went to the game, yesterday, and the arcade was great. The food, we went to a nice burger place, had really good burger, really good, curly fries, maybe the best I've ever had. But again, I had this loudmouth, just asshole guy behind us the whole game. And again, nothing is worse when you're at a sporting event, when you get a guy that just won't shut the fuck up, whether it's sober or drunk. Nothing is worse. It ruins the whole vibe for everyone sitting around a guy like that, and I don't know why, people like that go to games, but, no filter, no self-awareness, and again, it's not like I'm going to turn around and sock them. I don't want to get, banned from the Blazers, for life or whatever, but gosh, if I could, confront, I would have. But again, it's not going to be worth me going to jail or me getting banned from the Blazer game. So reflect with a 3-year. Appreciate you. Every dollar counts. Stacks, Racks with a little Cactus Jack. Bang, bang. Appreciate you. Every dollar counts on the channel. Thank you so much. Shout out to Ronald. Shout out to Megan. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to Megan. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to Sarah. And shout out to Reflect. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, live streaming from the Slammer is not good. Even those situations that I've had where I've had to confront people that, have had their dogs off leash. If I end up doing that and I end up going to, getting physical and going to jail, and then obviously that's not going to help Paisley out either. So, sometimes I just have to try to be the better person and just let it go, but again, if anyone has ever been at a sporting event when you've had a loudmouth person just not, and it's one thing to cheer for your team, even if it's not the Blazers, fine, that's fine. But when you're doing things that antagonize other people around you and you just think it's like a big joke, and you're loud and obnoxious and you just don't shut up the whole game, that might have been honestly the worst fan I've ever sat next to. I've had a couple experiences at the Mariners and at the Ducks and the Blazers. Every sporting event I've always been around, suspect people. But I feel as far as vocally, that might have been the worst person I've ever sat next to. And it was behind me, 1 row behind me, directly behind me. So, yeah, but it is what it is. I still had a great time with my best friend. We try not to let that, ruin the experience, but I guess that's what happens sometimes, Can't stream from the Slammer. You're right. We got 3 minutes to go here before halftime is up, and it's been a good one. Again, a lot of self-inflicted wounds, with the Ravens. So many touchdown opportunities, right? You had Isaiah Likely get the ball punched out at the half-yard line, turned into a touchback, automatic touchdown. Goodbye, taken away. Zay Flowers, boom, touchdown. Lamar, but he pushed off. Goodbye, touchdown. So realistically, it could be 21-12, and all of the points for the Bengals are field goals. But again, they could have had a touchdown when they had the ball at the 2 early in the game off a Lamar fumble, and they decided to run it with the wrong guy, with P. Ryan instead of Chase Brown, and then they threw it 3 times in a row from the 2. Like, didn't they learn watching Bryce Young? You never throw the ball at the 1 or the 2. You run the ball. And again, I just don't understand some of the play calls from these coaches in the NFL and in college. Like, it doesn't make sense to me, unless they're just trying to do the opposite of what they think the defense is going to line up in, but again, not very smart, strategy by a lot of these coaches that I've seen lately. So, yeah, I mean, we could have moved. I mean, we had good seats. We were in the 200 level behind the basket. And again, we were surrounded by Spurs fans. Like, there literally was maybe one Blazer fan in front of me. He was chill, and again, like when we, celebrate a play, when me and my best friend go to a game, it's like chest bump, high five, dap, and then if there's like a big dunk, but it's never like, just like antagonizing or talking shit or just, being obnoxious. But even though Wemby didn't play, there was a lot of obnoxious Spurs fans. And I definitely feel a lot of the Spurs fans that were there last night have only been fans since Wemby. And you can tell, you can tell the people that have been fans since the David Robinson, Tim Duncan era, or even the Iceman, George Gervin. And then obviously people that are on the bandwagon with Wemby and whatnot. And I saw a lot of those last night for sure. Yeah. Well, Lamar injured, Burrow injured. That's the story. But the Ravens are going to make the playoffs, and they could actually beat somebody, right? We know the Bills don't have a D, but they're always good with Cook and obviously Josh Allen. And this is the year that the Chiefs aren't going to make the playoffs, it looks like. So that'll give an opportunity to the Chargers to make it and probably fail in the first game. And then we'll see if Jacksonville can do something if they get in. And then the real question is, like, the Broncos and the Colts and the Pats, how are they going to do? And obviously the Broncos have playoff experience with Bo, but the Colts and the Patriots, they don't. So it'll be interesting. And I don't know, you came in here a little bit late, but Daniel Jones has got a fracture in his leg. And me and Sarah were talking about that. So it's not season ending, and it's not going to affect him short term, but after the season is over, as long as it doesn't get worse. But I have a feeling that people are going to target his leg now since they know that it's fractured. It's not like people are going to be gunning for him like Bounty Gate. But I kind of have a feeling that there's going to be defenders now that are going to be gunning for Daniel Jones's legs, which I don't like, but hopefully he'll be able to play through the pain, through the fracture in his leg. And hopefully, because a lot of times when a guy has a fracture in his leg, boom, season over, or you're out for, a few months. But I guess it's not as significant, but if he gets hit in that same spot hard, it might be a clean break. So you have to be very, very careful. And, hopefully the Colts are. But they're going to probably put a brace on him and wrap him up. And, I just hope that they don't target him. And, one thing about Daniel Jones I love, like I was mentioning to Sarah, when you see him hit the huddle, he acknowledges everyone in the huddle, and I love that. That's leadership. When you can look everyone in the eye, give them a high five and a dap, offensive linemen, running backs, wide receivers. And for a new guy coming to a team and they respect that, you don't really see quarterbacks do that often. And, that simple gesture alone has gained my respect for Daniel Jones. So, all right, we're about to get out of halftime here. Baltimore is going to receive the second half kickoff here on Thanksgiving 2025. But still had a great time, at the arcade. Played a lot of old school games and new school games, and it was super packed. It was a crazy environment and whatnot. So unlimited play for $6, and you could stay there for as long as you wanted. Great deal. And, had some good food at the restaurant, next door, which used to be a Silver Dollar Pizza. And we used to get pizza and wings there, but they don't exist. And now it's like a bar that took over. But the bartender was super cool. And we ended up getting a really great bacon burger and probably had the best curly fries I've ever had in my life. Like, no joke. And great time. Besides the rude fan, but I don't know what it is about people like that, but seems like there's more of those type of people that are out there. And normally, we just get a card that we scan on the machines. You don't really put nickels and quarters in arcades anymore. They give you kind of like a debit card that spits out after you scan your, credit or debit card, and then you get like a play card, at these arcades now, and then you just refill it. But we had old cards that had money on it, but we didn't even need to use those since we had an unlimited card that they gave us when it was only $6. And I thought that was like super. I mean, hell, me and my buddy go through $6 probably within, I don't know, 30 minutes. So, if we're like trying to beat a game together, like Turtles or whatever. So, great deal, for $6 unlimited play in a 2-story arcade. So we had a lot of fun. Just wish the Blazers would have been able to win last night, and I sat in a different seat, but it is what it is. But I got a chance to see a little bit of the fam, got a chance to see the fam's dog, Lucas. We got to walk around on the property a little bit, and got caught up with a little bit of Dodger talk and Mariner talk, and how things are looking for both of our teams moving forward, into March. And we're very excited, for spring training. And depending on if this MLB deal, if I can get the games for free through my T-Mobile account, like I normally do, they were blacked out with Root. But now, since Root isn't the partner with the Mariners, I might be able to get all the games for free just having T-Mobile. I'm hoping that's going to work. And then if they have spring training games, I'll start, calling some of those in March. Hopefully they'll have some of those on there for me to call. So would love to see some of the young talent out there. McPherson kicks off 63 yards and a 20-yard return there by Rasheen Ali. And that's first down and 10 at the Baltimore 22. Yeah, no Screwball. but it's funny. When I was talking with them, we were talking about, okay, what about Cody Bellinger coming back or Kyle Tucker? And it feels like, since they've already had Bellinger once, even though his stats were better than Tucker, Pops is kind of looking at, maybe Tucker, could go to Dodgers, Yankees, one of those teams that has an insane payroll and whatnot. But, I was telling him, if we can get Cade Anderson to be like Savage, and we can, find a way to trade Castillo, figure out a situation at third if we're not getting Gino, Ben, and someone else. We still got Colt Emerson and Cole Young and, Ben Williamson and a few of these other guys. And, we're definitely excited, moving forward. And, again, definitely excited about the rivalry with not only the Astros and the Yankees, but now the Blue Jays are in the top 3 with the rivalry now. I feel it's like Astros 1, and Yankees or Blue Jays at 2, and then the other at 3. So it's going to be a dogfight moving forward with the history that we've had matching up with the Blue Jays twice in the last 3 years in the playoffs. And I feel it's going to get feisty moving forward. Handoff up the middle. And that's going to be a 2-yard run there by Derrick Henry. Third down and 5 at the Baltimore 27. Yeah, no Screwball for the Dodgers, and I don't want the Mariners to give up the whole entire team to get him for 1 year and then he leaves. And realistically, if the Mariners did get Screwball, what would happen for us? He would get hurt halfway through the season and we wouldn't even have him late. That's exactly what would happen if we got him. It's just our luck, Jackson scrambling to the right side, and Miles Murphy. Oh, good tackle there by Miles on a 1-yard run. And now it's 4th down and 4 at the Baltimore 28. Nice hustle by Miles Murphy there. And again, the 4th of July game is against the Blue Jays, and the tickets became available to the public just like a day or two ago. I messaged my buddy, gave him the link, right? We tried to get Blue Jay tickets today within the first 20 rows behind the Mariner bench or the Blue Jay bench. $200 per ticket within the first 20 rows, and they're all sold out. I was like, Jesus. I mean, we only want to spend like $100 to $125 per ticket, if we're going to try to get a ball within the first, 15 to 20 rows. And we were a little disappointed to see all the seats were already sold out. Lots of Mariner fans and a lot of Blue Jay fans traveling from, Washington, Idaho, Montana, BC, Vancouver, Canada, and for a game that's going to be on the July 4th with the bucket hat giveaway. We were really looking forward to going, and now we might have to pivot. So if we're only going to go to one game a year, and then we can't get, a good seat to get a foul ball, then we might have to go to a bobblehead night or something to get like, a Cal Raleigh bobble. So that way we get something to make it worth it. Randy Johnson is being inducted into the Mariners Hall of Fame on my birthday, but it's against the Royals, and we've already seen them. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, I definitely want to be able to be a part of the Randy celebration. I wasn't able to be a part of the Ichiro celebration this year, but I'm kind of thinking maybe going to a bobblehead night would be the best thing if we can't go to that Blue Jay game. So 200 plus, and normally it's like only 100, 125 normally, doesn't matter the opponent, but I guess with the success of the Mariners this year, they're starting to get maybe a little greedy with the prices, I guess. So, and we're not going to sit, in the first 5 rows. We've done that before. You can't get a foul ball that way, and if you try to get a ball, there's just too many kids that run up. So if you want to get a ball, you have to be like 15 to 20 rows back, sitting in like section 119 to 121 behind the Mariner dugout or on the Blue Jay dugout. But we already looked and all the seats are sold out already. And the game is not even until July 4th. I mean, last time I checked, it's Thanksgiving, but I mean, the fans, Mariner fans and Blue Jay fans were all over it. Burrow passing complete short left, and that's going to be 3rd down and 4 for Cincinnati. Shotgun set on 3rd down and 4. Burrow short middle to Jamar Chase, and that is caught. 6-yard pass. 1st down, Bengals. Move the chains. I was shocked. I did not think, and again, the Blue Jays are going to be one of the prime, opponents that people are going to want to see, especially how good they did. I assume it's going to be probably the most expensive ticket out of all of the teams that are available, and just kind of stinks that, everyone had to be so greedy with their tickets already. But, and again, like we have money, to spend, but 200, for just one ticket, that's and especially if my buddy's going to be fronting that for me and I pay him back later, and because sometimes we'll have jerseys that get bought, so it's like we want to be able to have like a $400 experience with everything, maybe even buying jerseys included, not $1,000 experience, even though my buddy does make good money. But again, we don't want to waste our money, especially if we end up, trying to get like a jersey when we go. We already got Cal jerseys last time. I don't know if we would get, we already have Julio jerseys as well, unless we got like Naylor jerseys or something, or some other player as Burrow scampers out of bounds for a 3-yard run. But it's going to be crazy. It's going to be like 60% Blue Jays probably, just like when the Dodgers come to town, when it's like 60-40. Or like 70-30. It's going to be like that, definitely, especially the, success Toronto had this year. I feel like they're going to be just as heavy as Dodger fans when they come to Seattle. It's just going to be, they're going to take over, but we'll still be louder though, but they're going to take over for sure. I mean, you're going to get Blue Jay fans coming out of the woodworks. Shotgun set on 2nd down and 7. Chase Brown with a little screen, spin move, and a gain of 0 turns into a gain of 3. And timeout is called on 3rd down and 4 by Cincinnati. But I'm a little disappointed. I wanted the new, because every time we go on the 4th of July, we get a hat. We get some type of hat or giveaway. And, obviously the white hat that I normally wear on streams, that was the hat I got on the 4th of July 2 years ago. I have another like trucker hat that I could wear from last year that I haven't wore at all. And then I was going to get a bucket hat. And obviously they had the captain's hat, but my buddy and dad got that one and I didn't get that one. But, unless I go and buy that one on eBay. And timeout is called. 12-7 Cincinnati. 9:51 left here in the 3rd quarter on Thanksgiving. Great game earlier today with the Packers and the Lions. If you didn't watch it, you missed out. And then the Cowboys and Chiefs was fantastic too. This is probably the best, trifecta of games on Thanksgiving, maybe ever. been a long time where we've had 3 quality games, and obviously at this point, this might be the lowest of the 3 up to this point. But again, we still got a quarter and a half for this one to be on the same level as the other 2. Burrow out of the pocket, pump fake. Tinsley is there, and a nice 17-yard gain. The flags come out, and that is going to be pass interference on Tampa. Automatic first down after the defensive pass interference will be declined. There we go, Burrow. First down and 10. Quick huddle up here, a shotgun set. Samaje Perine off that left side. Kyle Hamilton and Roquan Smith with the tackle. 8-yard gain. And the Bengals are playing motivated ball. You know, for a team that's 3-8 that finally got Burrow back, they're playing as if they're the stronger team today. They're playing as if they're 8-3, not 3-8. No, Henry's still in the game, but they just haven't been able to get him the ball after he scored in the first half. Just flow of the game. You know, Cincinnati has been making more plays, and they've been keeping the ball out of Baltimore's hands. And when Baltimore does have the ball, they haven't really been running it that much with Henry. And when you end up getting down in the second half, sometimes you avoid the run and go pass, with a lot of these teams in the NFL in 2025. Shotgun set on the no huddle. Burrow with a run up the middle, 3-yard gain. First down, Bengals. Move the chains. First down and 10 at the Baltimore 15. Can we get a Bengal touchdown, please? And again, if the Bengals beat the Ravens, definitely Pittsburgh Steelers love that, keeping the division a little bit closer. But this would be a very bad loss for Baltimore and a very motivating win for Cincinnati if they can finish this game off. Shows you how much of a difference Burrow and Lamar make when they are healthy with their respective teams. It's a night and day difference. And the Bengals don't even have T-Rex playing, and somehow they're playing good defense against Baltimore on the road. It's wild. But we still have, 8 minutes here in the third and then the whole fourth quarter. So there's still a chance that Henry could end up getting a few more looks, but they've had some self-inflicted wounds. They've had an Isaiah Likely touchdown that turned into a touchback, getting poked away at the half-yard line, and a Zay Flowers touchdown taken off the board for offensive PI. Towards the end zone, incomplete. Second down and 10. Chase Brown runs off that left side, 1-yard gain. Third down and 9 at the Baltimore 14. And right now it's been a Cincinnati Bengal Evan McPherson field goal party with 4 field goals. And if they're not able to get a first down here, it's going to turn into 5. It's going to be a great fantasy day if you got McPherson in fantasy. $8:13 left here in the third quarter. 12-7 Bengal lead. All field goals so far for the Bengals from McPherson, and then a rushing touchdown by Derrick Henry in the first quarter, and that's where we're sitting right now. And that's kind of surprising because both of these defenses aren't good. So why is the score 12-7? Pretty wild. But again, maybe it has something to do with Thanksgiving. Everyone's thinking about that turkey and ham and stuffing and rolls and everything else. And Burrow, Hudson is there. Touchdown, Bengals. There it is. Finally, the big touchdown. Burrow to Tanner Hudson. 14-yard touchdown pass. Extra point is up. And good. 18-7 Bengals. Houday on the road. What a catch by Hudson. Wow. SportsCenter top 10. Unbelievable. Second touchdown of the year, one-handed on Kyle Hamilton. One of the best catches of the year right there. Beautiful. 19-7 Bengal lead. And I had a feeling, that Burrow was going to bring it today. And wow, did they sure bring it. 19-7 Baltimore. Down here in the third quarter. Harbaugh trying to get offensive pass interference there. Not today. Extra point by McPherson is good. 19-7 Bengals. All right, Lamar, you got to get Zay Flowers the ball. You know, you've already had opportunities by a few of the guys that went backwards, and definitely you can't abandon the run. Get Derrick Henry the ball as well. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it. Bang, bang. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. Gained a few more subs since the last commercial break. Shout out to all the new subs that we've acquired in 2025 and as of lately as well. And now we only need 23 to go to 23,300. Let's go. Yeah, just as excited as Ravens fans were when they got Lamar back. Now you're getting the same type of feeling with the Bengals and Joe. You know, Joe Cool, Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty, right? They're 3-8. And if Burrow can play like this, you know, they might be able to get to 500 before the season ends or pretty close. You know, they're not making the playoffs this year, but they can definitely rally just like Baltimore did, being 1-5, and now they're 6-5. So now if Burrow wasn't playing today, you know, maybe I watch Stranger Things instead and, you know, just take the rest of the day to kind of chill. But, you know, with Burrow coming back, I couldn't miss this. So that's great choices. I mean, you can't go wrong with Emmett, Aikman, and Michael Irvin, and Leon Lett, and Dion back in the day. And then, I mean, CD could play on any team in the NFL. But George Pickens, you know, even though he's kind of a selfish me player, you know, at least he's getting the ball, and you haven't really seen him blow up. You know, like I said, you get a lot of receivers that are divas. You know, DK Metcalf and, you know, George Pickens and a few of these guys that, you know, their attitudes get the best of them sometimes. You know, and again, it's nice that, you know, at least Pickens, you know, went to a team where he actually can get the ball. DK, not so much. I mean, unless you think Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to get him the ball enough, but clearly, you know, up to this point in the season, it hasn't been a good fit. And that obviously gave the opportunity for JSN to explode with no Lockett or DK there. And Devontae Adams and JSN are the best receivers in the league right now. Yeah, but CD is always fun to watch. And again, like I always say, you know, Dak is extremely underrated. He's on the Cowboys and he gets a lot of hate because he's there. But hell, he could play on a number of teams in the NFL and be a good quarterback. Bengals with a kick, 58 yards. First down and 10. Lamar, short middle to Mark Andrews. We haven't heard that name in a while. Nice 19-yard catch. 6 yards of yak. First down, Ravens. Nice pass from Lamar to Mark Andrews. First down and 10 at the Cincinnati 49. And it kind of feels like the Ravens need to score a minimum of field goal, but preferably a touchdown, so that way Cincinnati doesn't run away with this game. If it can get to 19-14, you're right back in it. Good play action by Lamar and Mark Andrews slithering through that defense. That was beautiful. And now they got to keep giving Derrick Henry opportunities. Henry on first down. There we go. Nice 8-yard run by King Henry. Second down and 2 at the Cincinnati 41. Do not stop giving Henry the ball. Top 5 quarterback this year. Like if you look at the top 5 passers in the league, it'll shock you if you haven't seen who the top 5 passers are. You would never expect those names to be there. Some of them. Some you would, but the others you would not guess that would be there. You know, some for yards and then obviously some for touchdowns. And then another 6-yard run for Derrick Henry. 6-7-yard gain there by Henry on shotgun set. First down and 10 at the Cincinnati 34. Keep beating King Henry. Here we go. Yeah, if Dak wasn't playing good ball, they wouldn't have beat the Chiefs. And again, you're getting top 5 ball, from Dak from a majority of the year. It's just that their defense usually doesn't show up game in and game out. Shotgun set, Lamar going to Keaton Mitchell, incomplete. Second down and 10 at the Cincinnati 34. About 5 minutes left here in the third quarter on Thanksgiving 2025. Got to give a little bit more lift on that throw, on that screen pass to Keaton Mitchell. Shotgun set, Henry off the left side for another 7-yard gain, and he's been plugging away for about 6 to 8 yard gains here lately on this drive. Now makes it third and manageable, 3rd and 3 at the Cincinnati 27. Yeah, just like Sam Laporta was when he was a rookie. Yeah, we definitely drafted the right players in Ibuka and Warren. There's no doubt about that. And sometimes that's a blessing when you need the position desperately, and then it falls into your lap of, you need it, and then there's a great player available to pick. Because a lot of times, you have a need, but there's not really that right player. You'll draft a guy that you hope that can fill into the spot, but everyone knew he would be a great player from what you saw at Penn State, and he's been able to translate that, obviously, to what you guys have now. If you would have had a different quarterback to Daniel Jones, then maybe we're not talking about Tyler Warren today. But, obviously Daniel has made Warren a name, and obviously I think we're all very thankful for that. So, because like I said, if AR was your quarterback, we probably wouldn't be talking about Tyler Warren, because he probably wouldn't be getting the ball as much to be able to make enough plays to be recognized. Lamar pushed out on that left side. Nice 9-yard gain. Geno Stone says, come here. First down and 10 at the Cincinnati 18. Mitchell on that right end. Touchdown, Ravens. Nice run there by Keaton Mitchell. And just like that, we have a game. 19-13 Bengals. And I would assume that after that amazing run by Keaton Mitchell coming into the end zone untouched, we'll see if they end up kicking the extra point. They do. No need to go for 2, but some coaches are dumb. And extra point is up and good. And now we have the ball game that we've all wanted. Back and forth, just like the first 2 games. Packers-Lions, back and forth, right? Cowboys-Chiefs, back and forth. And now you're getting the respectable score, 19-14 with the Bengals and the Ravens. It just took us a little bit longer, to get to this point, but we're finally here. And now it should be a shootout the rest of the way, and it could come down to whoever has the ball last. Yeah, like I said, I feel like the amount of 4th downs that Dan Campbell is going for, not having Ben Johnson there. Amon-Ra got hurt on the first play. I don't know if you saw any of that game with the Lions. If he didn't get hurt on the first play of the game, maybe they win. And that was just too much to overcome. It's like you got Montgomery, you got Gibbs, you got Goff, and obviously the offensive line isn't really the same, with certain guys retiring. But they did get some of the guys that were injured back, but the offensive line isn't as good as it has been traditionally. And, the defense, they still have some names out there, but they just haven't been clicking. And again, they have been struggling against divisional opponents this year pretty mightily, and like I said, they're not as dominant as the Lions team last year, and it's very clear. And, the Bears have had an easy schedule. The Packers are up and down. The Lions are up and down. And again, it kind of feels like right now, the Rams, the Eagles, and the Seahawks are the best teams in the NFC. And then there's just everyone else below them, and, depending on what Seattle can do moving forward, they might end up being the second best team behind the Rams. And then the Eagles might be third unless the Eagles can finally get that offense into high gear. We know they know how to turn it on in the playoffs, but again, to be able to be a champ and then to see relatively the same, team on offense, and to see Jalen and Saquon and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert not really be on the same, point and level as they were last year. And obviously Saquon being the best running back in the league last year helped expand the offense, and that's what you're seeing with the Colts this year with Jonathan Taylor. It makes everyone else better, right? But then when you're not getting the big touchdowns out of Saquon, then it obviously leaves less room for A.J. Brown, and he started complaining. And again, if the running game was better, A.J. Brown would be getting more looks, but they just haven't been clicking on offense, and we'll see. Some games, these teams look good, and other weeks, a little suspect. But NFC is up for grabs, but it definitely feels like the Rams, to me, are the best team in the NFC and in the NFL for now. And then we will adjust, what we feel going into, the AFC as well. Like, who's the best team in the AFC? Is it the Broncos? We know their defense is legit, but how good is Bo Nix going to do in the playoffs? With no J.K. Dobbins, you got R.J. Harvey, you got Cortland Sutton. Who else? So again, if you actually get a good defense against Denver, like the Patriots or one of those type of teams, they might get knocked off. So, it kind of feels like it's up for grabs. Will the Bills and the Ravens be able to have that playoff experience to help them beat Patriots and Colts, teams that are new to the the playoff scene? We don't know, but we will find out. Should be definitely up for grabs. Tyler in the building, what's good? Happy Thanksgiving, Tyler. Hope you had a good one. Loop, 51-yard kick and an 18-yard gain by Gary Brightwell. And now we have ourselves a back-and-forth slugfest, Lamar and Burrow, and I love it. Pecan pie. It's good, but it's really sweet. You're only going to have like one piece. Burrow is suspect. Pumpkin is his favorite. Uh-oh. Red alert. Pumpkin's okay, like when it's like the only thing left. But give me apple all day. I'm not sure if I've seen too many people as pumpkin as their favorite. It's okay, but I don't know if I would say it's my favorite. I would go apple, cherry. There's a number of things. Pecan. I mean, pumpkin's like last. Like if it's there, I'll eat it, but it's definitely not the first thing I'm grabbing. But again, everyone's got their preferences, P. Ryan runs off that left side for a 12-yard gain. Kyle Hamilton says, "Come here, sit down." First down and 10 at the Baltimore 47. 19-14 in a nice slugfest here. It's been a field goal party for the most part for McPherson, but we finally are getting Baltimore to get a little bit of offense after some bugaboos earlier on. Ooh, pear with the crumble? Ooh, that sounds good. Give me that over pumpkin any day. I don't know. I just like the fruits and whatnot. And again, I guess with the pecan, you can eat more than one, but you got to take your time. You savor it. I think it's like the only pie that you can't really rush to eat it if you want to enjoy it. Everything else, you just gobble it up, right? Apple, pumpkin, cherry, whatever, but with that, it's like, it's so savory and sweet. It's like, kind of like cheesecake, where it's like, you're not going to just gobble it down. You're going to kind of take your time with it. So shotgun set, Burrow, Tinsley going deep. And complete. Second down and 10 at the Baltimore 47. Going with that 4 wide receiver set for Burrow, but nobody there. Good attempt there by Tinsley. Now, if that was T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd from back in the day, that's probably a catch. Pear with the crumble. That sounds amazing. Not very many people, eat pears, it seems like now. I usually try to grab one every few weeks. Something that I had when I was a kid, and it's never been something that I'm always going to lean towards that once in a while. But again, I'm on still kind of somewhat of a diet, and whatnot with everything I eat. But I can splurge on Easter and Thanksgiving and Christmas, I guess, 3 times a year. And shotgun set, P. Ryan up for a 3-yard gain. Third down and 7 at the Baltimore 44. Shotgun set. Burrow going to Jamar Chase. There we go. First down, Bengals. Nice 14-yard pass there from Burrow to Chase, and that's something that we've missed as football fans, regardless if you like the Bengals or not. Burrow and Chase are good for football, period. Especially when you know they don't have a defense. And I just can't believe that they're playing this good on defense with no Trey Hendrickson. Like literally the only good player they have on D, and he's not playing. And somehow they've held Baltimore to only 14 with a minute to go in the third. That is crazy. Chase Brown, a 1-yard run there off that left end. Second down and 9 at the Baltimore 29. Wow, really? It must be delicious. 20 for 40 for Burrow, and obviously you don't really want him to throw that often, but it's not like they have Joe Mixon anymore. And it seems like when they need to go to Chase Brown, they decide to go to Pirine. And then when they go to Pirine, they need to go to Chase Brown. Like, I don't know if they really have figured out that combo yet. And again, I don't think Zach Brown is a very good coach, and I don't think he's a very good play caller. I'm actually kind of shocked that he hasn't got let go. Obviously, the Super Bowl run has saved his job, but since the Super Bowl run against the Rams, what have you done? I almost kind of feel like they need a change there. And if they still want him as head coach, get someone that knows how to call plays better. I don't really feel that he gets the most out of his team most of the time. And towards the middle of the field to Mitchell Tinsley, incomplete. Uzier with the good coverage there from the Ravens. Third down and 9 at the Baltimore 29. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. And again, the game started off a little slow, and it didn't really feel like it was going to be as good as the first two games until about 3 minutes ago. And then once you got that good score from Baltimore, now you're there. Uh-oh! Touchdown, Bengals! Burrow, Yosevas. Touchdown, Cincinnati. Wow. Burrow doing Burrow things, baby. Wow. That's a huge touchdown on third down and 9. You cannot give that up. And again, the safety is late over the top. Man, Burrow is special. Let me tell you. And again, when you ever have a toe or a foot or an ankle injury and then you're able to come back like this, first game back, torching Baltimore in their house on Thanksgiving. Turkey, ham, gravy, mashed potatoes, stuffing, pie. Give it all to Burrow. Beautiful. Dime. Iyoshabash. That was awesome. Wow. And the Ravens are definitely getting close to getting upset here. This was a trap game for Baltimore. Pittsburgh Steeler fans are smiling ear to ear, saying, take that, take that. And again, Cincinnati, if they can have Burrow for the rest of the year, they might be able to get close to 500. They're not making the playoffs, but again, they might be able to spike a run, just like the Ravens did when he came back. Wow. Oh, yeah, Uzini is definitely smiling, for sure. Yoshabash, 26-14. And now, if you're Baltimore, right, you got to get a touchdown, within the first, 6 minutes. You got to make sure that it's 26-21 to give yourself a chance. But with everything that's gone on, in the game at this point, I don't think Baltimore is going to win this game unless they score quickly, and they're going to have to get a stop and then another quick score, or they're going to have to score on a defensive touchdown, on Burrow. Pick six, fumble for a touchdown, or punch the football out of Chase Brown. And I just don't think I see that really happening in the fourth quarter. It kind of feels like the Bengals are going to run away with this. But Baltimore will still have a chance as long as they don't abandon the run with Derrick Henry. They still pound the rock a little, and then eventually that'll open up Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Isaiah Likely. And again, we've had 2 touchdowns taken off the board. Isaiah Likely got it punched out at the half-yard line, and what did it do? Roll into the back of the end zone, touchback. That's a touchdown off the board. And then you had Lamar to Zay Flowers. Boom, touchdown. But what did he do? He pushed off. Offensive pass interference, touchdown off the board. So realistically, it could be 28-26 or 26-21. at this point. But, again, comes some self-inflicted wounds and a little bad luck. And Burrow just playing better football right now than Lamar. And we have ourselves a shootout here. Yeah, they could. Obviously the Bengal defense normally is terrible, and the Ravens defense usually isn't very good either, and it definitely is more of an offensive oriented team like the Buffalo Bills. Like, you got a defense, but do they show up? And luckily they're not as bad as Tampa's lately. Tampa's defense has just been, it makes me want to pull my hair out. I'm a defensive oriented fan, and just seeing them, have this hard schedule and not having players available. And then obviously, having your running back, Bucky Irving, out since week 3, no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, no Jalen McMillan. Baker got hurt with the AC joint and the low level sprain, but it looks like he might be available this weekend. And Jamal Dean getting hurt, offensive lineman getting hurt. I'm just sick and tired of injuries, but hopefully we can get right at the end of the year, and we can find a way to get at least into the playoffs. Doesn't feel like we're going to win a game, but some teams are going to be contenders, some are going to be pretenders. But if we can't get that defense right, maybe we need to fire Todd Bowles, and try to get someone else to come in there to, give us a new vibe and a new effort. Like, fire Todd Bowles and bring in Robert Saleh from the Niners or something to give us some rejuvenation, on that side of the ball, unless we could get a guy like Mike Tomlin, but I don't know if the Steelers are going to fire him anytime soon. Two touchdowns and no picks, 21 for 42. Obviously you want the completion percentage to be a little bit better for Burrow in his first game back. But again, it's good enough to win at this point, and he's not done. Bills, Miami, Browns, Cards, Ravens. Oh, yeah, they can. Yeah. And again, if Burrow can strike, early and often and match Josh Allen, like in this game, against Lamar, they got a chance that, especially if Josh Allen and the Bills are taking them for granted. But after watching this game, I highly doubt that would happen. It's like you got to be able to get to the quarterback to be able to even the score, and if you're not able to get to Lamar or to Joe Burrow or Allen, they're just going to have a field day. Lamar, hands off. And there's Derrick Henry. And flag comes out, and that's a self-inflicted wound. Offensive holding. Brutal. That's on Emory Jones. Yeah, defense for the Bills sucks. Let's be real. We can be honest with each other. They're not good. They got Bosa. Didn't make a difference. They stink. Obviously the Colts defense and, offense defense, they're well-rounded. Patriots are well-rounded. Broncos got a great D. Texans got a great D. But again, for some of these other teams that normally are good, Ravens, Bills, Chiefs, defense really isn't the greatest this year. They're going to play in spurts, here and there, but again, it feels like you expect a little bit more from certain teams and whatnot. But again, we still got a little ways to go before the season is over. Chief in the building. What's good? Tough game against the Cowboys. You knew that it was going to be a tough game where you could lose, and again, the Cowboys were, peaking. They've been hot lately, and you guys have been kind of holding on by a thread, and unfortunately just couldn't get the dub. And again, Dak has been playing good ball lately, and I honestly kind of felt you guys were going to lose today, and you did, and again, it's, there's a few things that are missing from this team compared to previous years, and self-inflicted wounds, penalties, and just some questionable decisions on offense and defense from the Chiefs. And on top of that, just not being able to win one-score games this year. That's really been the bugaboo for Kansas City and the fans, and I think you know that too, so. But hopefully you're having a good Thanksgiving other than that tough loss. Obviously, Lions fans are feeling it. Chiefs fans are feeling it as Derrick Henry is rumbling and bumbling down the sideline. Big game there. And now we're going to the fourth quarter after that big gain from King Henry. 26-14 Bengals. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Yeah. The lack of the pass rush. I haven't had a good pass rush since Simeon Rice. What year was that? I mean, it's been a long time, especially when you're used to having a pass rush and then you don't have it, and then nothing is more frustrating when you can't get to the other quarterback. And then when you do, you're on cloud nine. You're like, oh, I'm going to win every game, and again, it's like you got Mahomes on one side, then you're going to get it done there. But obviously, it might be a blessing in disguise. You guys don't make the playoffs this year. You retool, get a higher draft pick, fix the, problem areas, and then maybe it'll only take a year or two, to kind of get back in the mix. But you also got to remember, Andy Reid and Spags aren't getting any younger. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce aren't getting any younger. Chris Jones ain't getting any younger. So if you're going to retool, you got to do it quick. Otherwise, you're going to have a rebuild sooner than later. So. But again, you did have some championships that you've won, so it's not like the Patrick Mahomes era has been a failure. Obviously you weren't able to beat the Buccaneers, but you still were able to win Super Bowls. And so overall, it's been a success. But it's just probably been shocking for Chief fans for be on top of the world and then to kind of hit a wall like this. I don't think that people were expecting it this year, and especially when you're, the top dog. No one expects the top dog to be average or mediocre or below average. And, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, true. We made Mahomes run like 500 or 600 yards in that game. And probably the last time that you would ever see Mahomes not throw a touchdown pass in a Super Bowl. But again, if my defense wasn't as good as it was, then you guys, would have had a much better chance of winning. But somebody got to beat you guys, And again, we've got 2 Super Bowls under our belt, just like the Ravens. We've gone twice, we've won twice, but you guys still have a great legacy with Andy Reid and Spags, and obviously with Mahomes and Kelce and Chris Jones. But you're definitely going to have to retool that team at some point or another. Yeah, but I've been dreaming for a Simeon Rice since Simeon Rice. It's like I want my pass rusher with 15 sacks, on the edge. And, I haven't had anybody close to Simeon Rice in a long, long fucking time. I mean, I got Vita Vea, who's kind of like Warren Sapp, but then, you got Vita Vea, you got Levante David, you got Antoine Winfield Jr., but last time I checked, you can't win a defensive matchup with only 3 guys out of 11. You need a little bit more, It's like those guys are great, one in each layer of the defense, but again, you got 11 on 11. What about the other fucking 8 guys not doing their job? And Jackson short middle to Keaton Mitchell. Jackson, shotgun set. Short left to DeAndre Hopkins. Nice 15-yard gain. First down and 10 at the Cincinnati 16. Move the chains. And that's how the cookie kind of crumbles, right? In previous years, you guys were amazing in 1-score games between 3 and 7 points. But this year, so many, you can't even win. And that hurts, when you've already had success in that scenario and then just not being able to close out games late. Sometimes it's Mahomes and the offense not coming up big, but also sometimes it's the defense giving up a late field goal or touchdown. And that's excruciating. It makes you want to pull your hair out if you have any. 1-yard gain by Lamar, pushed by Geno Stone. Second down and 9 at the Cincinnati 15. Ravens knocking on the door, and they absolutely need to get fucking 6 here sooner than later. And normally in this situation of the game, it's normally Mark Andrews or Zay Flowers time. But again, we will see if Isaiah Likely or Derrick Henry, or Keaton Mitchell can find an opportunity to get in the end zone. But normally in this part of the field, you're going to be looking at maybe the 3rd option, 4th option in Mark Andrews to see if he's open. And then if it's not him, going with your number 1 receiver in Zay Flowers, he already had 1 touchdown taken off the board with offensive pass interference. He is thirsty to get in the end zone here to help the Ravens catch up. Good pressure by the Bengals with no T-Rex Trey Hendrickson. I'm very impressed with the Bengals defense, considering they don't have anybody on defense that's really good on the team that's out there right now. Yep, that's true. You were very good, like undefeated or only one loss and one score games in previous years, and you could make mistakes and still win. Now you can't, And again, I think it's starting to get mental for Mahomes, where, every loss is hitting the team harder and harder, and they try to, let me forget about that interception or that bad play, but they're not. They're hanging on to those bad plays and not moving forward. And again, that's been a problem for the Chiefs this year too, based in the games that I've watched. Interception! Let's go Bengals! Go, baby, go! Go, baby, go! Demetrius Knight Jr., baby! Fourth Baltimore turnover, and goodbye, Ravens. Especially if the Bengals end up getting another touchdown here. This one's going to be a blowout. I don't know if we anticipated the Bengals with no defense, no Trey Hendrickson, and they're going to be blowing out Baltimore on the road. Lamar's not getting any turkey today. Wow. Maybe Lamar was intimidated about Burrow's return. Unbelievable. Yeah, the enemy. Yes, agreed. OC needs to be fired. Should have been fired years ago. And now it's finally getting to a point where maybe you can fire him, if you guys missed the playoffs and whatnot. Execution has not been crisp in 2025. And the play calling has been suspect. Yes, you've had injuries, but we've all had injuries. I mean, look at the Niners and the Buccaneers. If you got good coaching, you can find a way. But if you don't have good coaching like Tampa, you see what happened with us and the Rams and some of the other tough teams that we played lately. It's been ugly. So Finley in the building. What's good? And we know Lamar is normally lights out, but this is just, this has been Burrow's night. There's just no doubt about that. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We'll be doing Bears and Eagles at noon tomorrow, the only NFL game on Black Friday. So if you guys aren't doing anything, you're not doing shopping, or if you're shopping from home, come through, hang out with your boy. And then we're going to be doing the Ducks and the Huskies on Saturday. That's going to be huge. Sunday, we'll be doing the Broncos and the Commanders. I don't know if Jaden Daniels is playing, but that would make that game a little bit better against Bo Nix. And then Monday, a little bit of a clunker, with the Giants and the Patriots, but, not every game that we get on the slate is going to be great. Yeah, and sometimes when you have a bad year, it's a blessing in disguise. You end up retooling, firing some guys, adding some new pieces, and sometimes you need to have a bad season to fire someone. If you still end up, floating around like a 10-7 record, maybe your OC is fucking there forever. So if you don't make the playoffs this year and you go like 9-8, 8-9, and then a couple guys get fired or moved, maybe it could end up being better, moving forward for the squad. So. But it's not like just one problem the Chiefs have had this year. It's a lot, like more problems than they've ever had. Injuries, bad play calling, situational football, Mahomes not being clutch late in games, more mistakes than usual, can't win in one-score games. There's been a lot, pass rushing. Where is it? There's been a lot of things that need to be better. And not only on your team, but my team and a lot of other teams in the league this year. What a crazy pick. Four Raven turnovers, and that's not going to get you a dub. And what do good teams do when you're ahead in the fourth quarter? You run the football. You bleed the clock. But with that being said, you can't get lazy and just try to play keep away. Not against someone as good as Lamar. At some point, you're still going to have to, sling it and fling it, with the receivers and tight ends that Burrow has at his disposal, especially with the arm that Burrow has. Very exciting player. Always has been, from his LSU days to his Cincinnati days. And Jamar Chase threw his hands incomplete. What happened to my hands? I mean, that was a laser by Burrow there. Chase normally comes up with that, but Awuzie has been really blanketing Jamar this game. Pretty surprising. Shotgun set. Burrow, short middle to Gesicki, the former Dolphin. 8-yard gain. Kyle Hamilton and Green with the coverage. First down and 10 at the Baltimore 41. No, bro, this is a safe place to rant about our teams that are good or bad. You know how that goes. Again, it's like we all want success with our teams, but we're not in denial mode where we're oblivious when we end up not being good or when we have bad play, And Gesicki screams out to the gods, "Give me some turkey." Second down and 12 at the Baltimore 43. Great pass by Burrow there. Yeah, you're cool, man. This is a safe place for you. And remember, you're not the only Chief fan that feels that way. Every Chief fan that's actually a true fan feels the same way. But again, every great team, ends up not being at the top forever. With the Patriots and the Chiefs, you guys had a great run. But again, we'll see what happens next year and the year after if you can retool and regroup. And loss of 2 there by Chase Brown. Kyle Hamilton says, "Sit down." Shotgun set, Burrow, short left, Jamar Chase. Nice 10-yard gain there. Third down and manageable now. Third down and 2 at the Baltimore 33. And Burrow definitely is injury prone as a player, but he sure as hell is fun to watch when he is healthy. Look at those injuries. Torn ACL, PCL, meniscus, finger, knee strain, sprained MCL, appendectomy, calf strain. It's like every year he's got something new. Timeout, Bengals. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get as close to 100 likes as possible. 100 on the dono train. And 5 to 15 subs. Let's get it, baby. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We're 23 subs away from 23,300. Let's get it, baby. I mean, if Baltimore plays like this, kind of back and forth, Pittsburgh will have a chance to steal the spot from them, even though Pittsburgh had the spot, and then Baltimore is like, give it to me, But again, if you have losses like this, it's going to definitely open up the door to possibly come down to like the last week of the season, or the last 2 weeks, on who's going to win. Is it going to be the Steelers or the Ravens for the AFC North? I mean, I don't know if we really feel that either team can go on a deep run. Obviously, we feel that the Ravens are better than the Steelers. Lamar is much better than Aaron Rodgers and what they have. Obviously, they're in Pittsburgh, but you never know what injuries may occur between now and the end of the season. Yeah, that's what makes the NFL great. You know what I'm saying? Like years and years and years, Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, and then now you're seeing the Broncos and the Colts and the Patriots like take over, and that is something that a lot of people didn't see coming. I think a lot of us thought the Broncos could win the division, including myself, but I don't think a lot of us saw the reign of the Colts and the Patriots being this strong. Both of those teams are about a year early, and again, you got the best running back in the league in Jonathan Taylor. That'll help. And Daniel Jones has been great with the defense in lot 2. And then obviously the Patriots with Vrabel, again, Drake May, prior to Vrabel, nothing. Now, playing great, and again, a very well-balanced offense and defensive special teams team overall. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see who comes out of the AFC and obviously the NFC. Rams, Eagles, Seahawks, very, very good. And that's the top tier. And then you got everyone else. You got the Packers, the Lions, the Bears, the Buccaneers, and all the Cowboys, all in that next group below those top 3. Could we get a Rams Broncos Super Bowl? We could, but if that happens, the Rams are going to win, and maybe the Rams will win the Super Bowl regardless of who the opponent is in the AFC, especially if Stafford plays the way that he's been playing. I mean, like 30 touchdowns, 2 picks, and you got Kyron Williams at your running back, and Puka and Devontae Adams as your wide receivers, and then Jared Verse and all those great defending players. The Rams defense is such like a slept-on unit, and I don't think people realize how good Sean McVay and that unit really is. Facts. Feels like this might be the Rams' year to go all the way. And again, they almost beat the Eagles in the playoffs last year. If it didn't come down to 1-2, football is bouncing in the opposite direction. So, the Rams have been in this position, and they're looking to win it all with Sean McVay. And P. Ryan, loss of 1. Should have went to Chase Brown. I don't know what you're doing there, Zach Brown. 4th down and 3 at the Baltimore 34. So as a Chief fan, right, if you guys get eliminated from the playoffs, who would you be rooting for in the AFC? Is there someone that you would be rooting for? McPherson, pick us up, and good. It's been a field goal party for McPherson. 5 field goals. If you got McPherson in fantasy, you're doing a little touchdown dance in your bedroom or living room right now. Wow. 52-yarder, extra 5 points right there. Boom, shakalaka. (29-14), and again, the Ravens need a touchdown real quick, and then another 3 and out, and another touchdown, and a 2-point conversion, and then you just got to hope that you can get it to be 29-29. But based on how Lamar has played and the 4 turnovers, the Ravens are not coming back. You might end up losing the game by like a touchdown, but I don't think you're coming back. Not based on how they've played up to this point, but you never know. Baker, that's my boy. Gotta heal that AC joint, Baker, instead of being in Macy's commercials. Let's go. Yeah. And again, I feel like with Lamar, if you watch the Ravens, they have more blown leads and like bad calls late in games than any other elite team in the AFC. And again, like Harbaugh and Monken have like ruined the team so many times in like late in games with their play calling. And again, it's like, the offense has weapons, the defense could be obviously a little bit better, but I feel that like Harbaugh, and obviously the, coaching staff, as far as like blowing games, they're the best at it, as far as an elite team blowing games late. And that's kind of the reason why we haven't seen Lamar in a Super Bowl, because the play calling hasn't been up to par. You have the talent, but you don't have the right play callers. And, Harbaugh is considered a pretty good coach, but honestly, they probably need to let him go and get rid of Monken and like find a new head coach, offensive coordinator that can do better to take them to the next step. Because it just kind of feels like all you're going to be able to do is get to this point, like make the playoffs, maybe win a game, maybe not, but you're not going to be good enough to win multiple games to be able to get to the Super Bowl. It just doesn't feel like with the coaching staff, the way that's been in place, that they're going to be able to overachieve and finally get there unless they make a coaching change at OC and head coach. And I don't see them firing Harbaugh anytime soon. He's respected. But again, the decision-making by Harbaugh and Monken and the crew has not been good. Like if you actually watched close games, they definitely choke more times than not. So, but I like Lamar too. But again, if they don't make changes with the coaching, they're never going to get to a Super Bowl, which is a crazy thing to say because they're so talented, with all the players that they have. But I feel like their talent is capped, based on some of the play calling. Yeah. Now, if the Bills actually had a fucking defense, maybe they could get there. But I mean, Josh Allen and James Cook, that's it. Lamar short to Isaiah Likely, 7-yard gain, 2nd down and 3 at the Baltimore 42. All right, Paisley's in here. He says, I miss you, Dad. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. 29-14. And again, I'm not mad. You know, like I said, I was hoping Burrow was going to bring it today, and a little disappointed in the Ravens with all the turnovers and self-inflicted wounds. You got to remember, Isaiah Likely had a touchdown, and he got poked out at the half-yard line, and it rolled into the back of the end zone. Touchback. That's one touchdown off the board. Then Zay Flowers gets in the end zone. But what did he do? Push off. Offensive pass interference. Another touchdown off the board. So it could be 29-29 right now, or 29-28. But those self-inflicted wounds have killed the Ravens today. And we got a penalty. Looks like defensive holding on the Bengals here. Yeah, unfortunately, Jim Harbaugh is not coaching the team. It's John, his brother. So Jim, is not going back to Michigan, and John isn't either. And you may need Henry for fantasy, but again, when you're down, you're not going to run the ball. You know, again, good teams will still have balance, but once you abandon the run, it's it. Once you get down, you throw the ball, you throw the ball, you throw the ball. Lamar going deep. And incomplete. Devontae Walker almost came down with that big catch for Lamar, but got poked out there at the very end by Hill. Shotgun set. Lamar, short right to Isaiah Likely, 7-yard gain. 3rd down and 3 at the Cincinnati 46. Yeah, people confuse Jim and John all the time, but John's got to go from the Ravens, just like Monken's got to go from OC. Not good. It's like you're only going to get so far with those guys. I mean, I guess just going to the playoffs is good enough, but some fan bases want to go to the Super Bowl or the AFC Championship game. I'm almost done, baby. I'm almost done. Third down and 3, and another self-inflicted wound. False start. Andrew Voorhees, what are you doing? Shotgun set, Lamar, incomplete to Zay Flowers. 4th down and 8 at the Baltimore 49. And honestly, the only way that Michigan would be elite again is if Jim would come back. But obviously, he's happy with Herbert and trying to get the Chargers to the Super Bowl before Herbert's career is over. So, and again, that's the type of coach that you need, in places like that, like Michigan, to replace a guy like that. Or, anytime you're going into Alabama replacing Saban, it's not going to be an easy task. And, without Saban there and without Harbaugh in Michigan, obviously Alabama and Michigan really aren't the same teams anymore. Recruiting, leadership, it all goes hand in hand. And incomplete. Zay Flowers almost intercepted, tipped, and that is going to be turnover on downs. And now this game is officially over. I mean, if you ended up getting a touchdown there would have been a small glimmer of hope that if you could get a 3 and out on the Bengals on Burrow and score again, then maybe we could, talk about maybe overtime or something of that nature. As you see my dog's tail go in the background there. She wants some food, so let me go get her a little snack. I'll be right back. I see you. Taste the snack. Paisley says, give me some food, Dad. It's Thanksgiving. I'm hungry. So I gave it to her. She got some food. Yeah, but the thing is that from when that happened, in that era of the NFL to now, that's like an eternity. A lot of those guys are not on the team anymore, and it's a different type of football that was played back then than, what's played now. It's not like, Colin Kaepernick is running around and, getting touchdowns and whatnot, you know what I mean? And, the different era of players. So, and I feel, it's more of like an OC thing. It's like, John and Jim are always respected, but again, at some point, even like Mike Tomlin, at some point, if you have a coach too long, sometimes the message, it goes in one ear, out the other, and it's not really heard. It's like same thing every year. And some guys are just going to get up because they want to be able to, be great, but then you get others that are just kind of satisfied on being in the league because, they made it, like certain guys want to be the best and they want to be Hall of Famers and they want to be the best they can be. And then you get these other guys that worked hard to get there, but they're not really willing to work hard to be the best in their position or something of that nature, if that makes sense. So, but the time that the Harbaughs played each other, I mean, doesn't that seem like fucking like a billion years ago? He's getting loose. And Chase Brown with a nice 18-yard run, but again, that was quite a while ago. And again, the Ravens have gotten to the Super Bowl twice. They won both, like the Bucs, but again, that was quite some time ago. Yeah, and then if you remember when Flacco was, balling, he was one of the best quarterbacks, didn't throw an interception the whole playoffs, and again, it's like you mentioned, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and whatnot. But again, when Flacco in that playoff run, that was something magical, and he was never able to replicate that after that. So sometimes it's the right place, right time with the right teammates and the right play calling, and it just all came together, for him. And that's why Flacco has actually had success, after that. Again, he may not be that same player anymore, but we have seen him flash here and there, even though he's kind of an old man now, right? So 8-yard run there by Chase Brown. Uzier with the coverage. 2nd down and 2 at the Baltimore 22. It's like even the Bengals, with their head coach, he's still there because they made the Super Bowl against the Rams, even though they lost. But at some point, when is enough is enough? Like how many seasons after that big year, even though they didn't win the Super Bowl, but they got there with Burrow, like how many years are you going to stick with a guy after that one big year of success? At some point, you got to move on, otherwise you're going to, pretty much have the same type of, philosophy and the same type of, things year in and year out. And sometimes you just need a change. 5-yard penalty there by Draymond Jones for encroachment by the Ravens. And it's 29-14 here, Bengals. 5:41 left in the fourth. And again, I don't think anyone anticipated, Lamar and the Ravens with this many turnovers, especially being at home. And it kind of makes you wonder, if Cincinnati was at home, what would the score be? Would it be higher? Pretty wild. And I feel like Harbaugh, John, was a better coach back then than he is now, obviously with Monken at the OC. So, but again, tomorrow we'll be doing the Bears and the Eagles at noon, so I'll have to wake up early and make the thumb, but it'll be early at noon, the only NFL game on tomorrow for Black Friday, unless we've got shopping to do. But we will be doing the game, and we'll see if the Bears can actually beat a good team for the first time this year in the Eagles. It'll be a tough task, to say the least, but it'll be a springboard win for them if they're somehow able to do it, the Bears. even though that they're going to be heavy underdogs, but we'll see. And then obviously Saturday will be the Huskies and the Ducks. Sunday, Broncos and Commanders. Monday, Patriots versus the Giants, and hopefully Jackson Dart will play. And a little run up the middle and timeout Ravens. And sometimes coordinators can be like good, but if you stay in a place too long, sometimes it gets bland, with like the play calling, and you need sometimes to mix it up a little bit. And, sometimes a change of scenery can be good, for other players as well. I mean, look at Daniel Jones on the Colts this year. The Giants thought he was garbage. He obviously is gold, and he's playing great for the Colts, right? George Pickens, selfish receiver, diva, right? Didn't get the ball enough in Pittsburgh. Comes to Dak and the Cowboys, fantastic. So, sometimes one person's trash is another person's treasure, and sometimes you just need a change of scenery to go somewhere else to ball out. Facts. Yeah, I'm very excited to watch the Bears because they've had the easiest schedule. They got a negative in the plus minus. And again, they've played all easy teams. This will be their first tough test, and they got a tough test the rest of the way. And then we'll find out, are the Packers and Lions making the playoffs and the Bears are going to get left out? Or are the Bears going to take one of those two team spots? We'll find out starting tomorrow. But Ben Johnson is an incredible play caller, and we'll see if the defense comes up. If the defense plays good, like Bengals today, they're going to have a chance. Philly got shut out by the Cowboys last week in the second half, and I haven't seen the Eagles get shut out in the second half in like years. So, they're kind of on a downward trend a little bit. So, they definitely can recover at home. I mean, it's Philadelphia, but again, the defense and the special teams has been pretty good, but the offense is nowhere near as good as it was with Saquon as the best running back in the league last year. They all have taken a step back in their game on offense. Jalen, Saquon, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. But we'll find out if they'll be able to rekindle that magic tomorrow at noon. But I'm excited to see the Bears. I never thought I would say that. But again, no one saw the Bears being this good this year. And even though they played all easy teams, you still got to give them the respect. They still got dubs on some of the games they could have lost, But now they're going to have the hardest stretch the rest of the year. And it's not like I feel they're going to lose every game the rest of the way, but we'll see what their record will be. P. Ryan up the middle. And Jones with the recovery on the fumble. Turnover, Bengals. And that's a little bit too little, too late. But great job by Baltimore if you were only down 7, but you're down 15. All right, we got the last 5 minutes, and we'll see if Baltimore can score, get an onside kick, score again. And that'll be the only way they come back and win here today or make it interesting. They do. Have you watched Eagles games this year? They do have a play calling problem. Offensive line isn't blocking as well as they were last year either. And of course, if you have Saquon Barkley and he's the best running back in the league, I mean, look how it's affected the Colts this year with Jonathan Taylor. It trickles down to the rest of the team, And again, if Saquon isn't getting the big yards, then guess what? A.J. Brown isn't either. Devontae Smith isn't either. Dallas Goedert isn't, and even Jalen's numbers aren't as extraordinary as you would think. Still a good team, but we'll see how good they really are tomorrow. Gained a few more subs since the last commercial break. Appreciate y'all. 21 subs to go to 23,300. Bye-bye. Well, A.J. Brown has cried to the media, right? And then when he cried to the media and was bitching and moaning to the media, then what happened? Private meeting with Jalen, private meeting with all the skill position players. And then what happened? Then they went heavy A.J. Brown. But just because you make one guy happy, doesn't mean that it's going to help the team win, And again, sometimes you have to be selfless, and wide receivers are divas. Give me the ball. And again, if you're not going to block in plays that aren't meant for you to get the ball, what do you expect? And then receivers get frustrated, right? Again, when they don't get the ball and they're running down the field, play after play after play, they're not getting the ball. Then they don't block when they're needing to block. And then when they actually do get a pass, what do? They drop it because, all the frustration, and it boils over. So, yeah, but the main reason the offense flowed so well is because Jalen would do the tush push. He would run and score touchdowns with his arm and his legs. Saquon was the best running back in the league. So then defenses would cheat up, and then it would be one-on-one for Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, and that's when they would be able to rake, right? But now they're not getting that. They're getting the safety over the top, double covered, and then now the frustration is boiling over because Saquon can't run, and then the rest of the guys, it's trickling down to them as well. So it does affect the rest of the team if your running back isn't playing well. Pass incomplete by Lamar. Yeah, and again, it's kind of sad to say, but sometimes those bigger, buff wide receivers like DK, Metcalf, and A.J. Brown, kind of overrated. You know what I mean? Like they're big and physical, but do they run routes better than the smaller guys? No. Do they have better hands than the smaller guys? No. Do they complain? So it's like, are they a hothead? And I feel like some of those guys that are the muscular receivers, you're getting passed up by guys that aren't built like that, besides maybe Devontae Adams, who, has Matthew Stafford, to obviously, that's a big part of his success, right? If you don't have Matthew Stafford thrown to you, we're not talking about Devontae Adams. We're talking about Devontae Adams with Aaron Rodgers on the Jets not getting the fucking ball, right? But then you go to a team like the Rams that has Puka and Kyron Williams and a quarterback that's got 30 fucking touchdowns and 2 picks this late in the year. Yeah, you're excited. Devontae might be the best tall, physical wide receiver, as far as those like bigger guys. Short left to Mark Andrews, 8-yard pass, now 4th down and 2 at the Baltimore 24. Lamar is too good for this, but again, the play calling, a lot of times with the Ravens, right, when they get down, they just avoid Derrick Henry. And then in the beginning of the year, Derrick Henry had fumbling problems, right? And the last thing that you want to do is just to cut off the run. As soon as you cut off the run, you're done. And that's exactly what happened with Baltimore. Derrick Henry scored the first touchdown for the Ravens. Has he gotten the ball since? Barely. And that's the problem with Monken and Harbaugh and this team. You have such good players, but you don't play up to your ability, and a lot of it is play calling. Hard to run the ball when you're down, but you got to keep the defense honest. And it's not like the Bengals have a good defense, but apparently today they do. And they don't even have Trey Hendrickson out there, T-Rex, which is wild. Lamar. There we go. Mark Andrews, 1st down, Ravens. That's a nice 14-yard gain. And also, if you've noticed this year, Mark Andrews doesn't get the ball clearly as often as he did in years past. Just a lot of problems with Baltimore, and it's internal. Shotgun set, short right to Zay Flowers, fumble, and the Bengals get it. Woo! Wow. It's a fumble-rooski, fumble party, and another fumble recovery. And now this one is over, like 100%. Wow. Lots of turnovers in this game that were so unexpected. Interceptions, fumbles. I mean, I think a lot of people assumed it would be 29-14 Ravens, not 29-14 Bengals. But I had a feeling Joe Burrow was going to be Joe Cool today, and he was. But if the Bengal defense wasn't as good as it was today, there's no chance they win this game. But, they made it extra difficult for Lamar and all his teammates. And these are the type of things that are going to prevent, the Ravens from making the Super Bowl or the AFC Championship game unless they make changes. And also, if you remember, when Ozzie Newsome was drafting for them, they were much better. The Ray Lewis and the Ed Reed. And then when he stepped down from, being a big, intricate part of drafting guys, now they still have hit, on a few guys like Kyle Hamilton, from Notre Dame. He's great. But they haven't been drafting the same type of way since they have moved away from Ozzie Newsome's, influence on the team, the Ravens. Bengals schedule: Bills, Ravens, Dolphins, Cardinals, Browns. They can win out, but the toughest one, like Chief said, will be at the Bills. But the Bills don't have a defense. So, again, if the Burrow can strike early, they can go toe-to-toe with Josh Allen. There's no doubt about that. And both defenses kind of stink for the Bengals and the Bills. They're very offensive heavy. And I guess you could kind of say that for the Ravens too. They're more offensive heavy. Even though the Ravens have, names on defense, they just don't show up. They don't have like a Ray Lewis going to yell at everyone when they're fucking up, or Ed Reed. And they need that discipline and that leader. They don't got it. Got a 5-yard penalty there with a delay of game. First down and 15 at the Baltimore 29 on Thanksgiving, baby. Like, sub, donate, comment, share. If you haven't smashed that like button yet, please do. Help us get to 100 likes, 100 on that dono train, and 5 to 15 subs. Shout out to my boy Brooks Beats with the best beats on YouTube. My boy, happy Thanksgiving. And delay a game, just couldn't get that snap off. Burrow is saying, fucking snap it to me, center. Remaining schedule for Ravens, Steelers, Bengals, Patriots, Packers, Steelers. They're fucked. They're fucked. That schedule right there, Steelers are probably going to end up taking the spot from Baltimore, especially if they play like tonight. There's no way they're making the playoffs against those teams unless things drastically change. And I don't think Pittsburgh's very good, but we'll find out, who's going to end up taking that spot. It could end up coming down to that last week. But they're very tough schedule for Baltimore the rest of the way. I didn't really see too many wins there. And obviously those head-to-head matchups against Pittsburgh will be very key and crucial to who ends up winning this division. The battle of the bads. But it's like the NFC South is bad too, so I understand. Not every division is going to be like the AFC West or the NFC West or other divisions like the NFC North, where you have all these teams well above 500. Some divisions are not going to be very good, like the NFC South, not very good, for a number of reasons. And now we're at the 2-minute warning on Thanksgiving 2025. Second down and 12 at the Baltimore 26. I'm glad I got home in time. I was definitely cutting it pretty close, but since I wasn't home to do the first two games, we typically will grind on my birthday, on Thanksgiving, and we will be doing Chiefs Broncos on Christmas for the late game. Super excited about that, and we'll see how that ends up turning out. Oh, look at that, the turducken. Speaking of food, I'm looking for another plate. I got to go take my pup on a walk, but I definitely want a little bit of a snack here momentarily. All right, timeout is called, and we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, 29-14, and a huge win for Burrow in his first game back after the toe and foot, and he looked fantastic. Obviously, the completion percentage could be a little bit better, but again, for a guy that, first game back, the defense stepped up for him, and a lot of self-inflicted wounds by Baltimore. And, if you're the Ravens, this was a must-win game for you, and you didn't get it done. And looking at that schedule the rest of the way, the Steelers I got to look at the Steelers' last 6 games, but those last 6 games for Baltimore do not look kind. Take care, brother. Enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving. And obviously, as soon as I get my pup on a walk and I have a snack with the Thanksgiving food, Stranger Things 5. If you haven't watched it yet, you better fucking watch it. It's amazing. I got the first 4 episodes out. Next month, another 4, and then the season finale will be on New Year's Eve. And if you're a fan of Stranger Things, must watch. And we got a 1-yard run by Samaje Perine. Starks with the tackle. Malachi, I see you. 4th down and 9 at the Baltimore 23. Burrow is a gamer. All right, Chief Will Chief. If you ain't doing anything tomorrow, come through for Bears and Eagles. I'll be streaming at noon. If you got some free time and want to watch the game with someone. But great game between the Packers and the Lions this morning. Great game between the Cowboys and the Chiefs. And this one, was, not a blowout the whole game. It just kind of turned into a blowout in the, end of the third quarter, middle of the fourth. But, I think a very eye-opening surprise of a blowout by the Bengals that have no defense, no Trey Hendrickson, and they were able to beat Lamar, with a pretty isolated full lineup, and field goal up by McPherson is good. 6 field goals by McPherson. If you got him in fantasy, my goodness. Look at that. New England, Denver, Indy, Pittsburgh, Chargers, Jacksonville, Buffalo in the hunt. Texans, Chiefs, Baltimore, Miami, Cincinnati, and Cleveland. And really the names to be looking out for are going to be the Texans, the Chiefs, and the Ravens on the outside looking in, especially as good as the Texans defense has been lately. They might be able to get into the playoffs, maybe. But it all depends on what the Colts and the Jags do as well in the AFC South. All right, take care. Have a good one. Everyone's jumping in to get into those leftovers. I don't blame you. And then Lamar sitting on the bench, hearing "Who Dey" chants right behind him. Not ideal. Big sack fumble. And imagine if they would have scored on that. It could have been 40-14. If they would have ended up punching the ball in with the correct play call early on. Just a very sloppy game here by the Ravens and Lamar. McPherson kicking off. Touchback. Burrow and Flacco exchanging hugs there on the sideline. Yeah. And again, we haven't really seen the Ravens and Lamar play this poorly in a long time. Especially against an opponent that, it looked like they had an advantage on, at least on paper. I don't even know if you're going to get Lamar throwing the ball. It's like, fuck, if you throw the ball with Lamar, it could potentially be an interception. So I assume that we're just going to get a couple handoffs here. And first game with 4 fumbles lost since 2007. And guess who it was against? The Bengals. So again, Ravens offense, not good today. That's wild. 4 fumbles? Did they lose all 4? Holy cow. Handoff up the middle. And that's Rasheen Ali. Ali again in shotgun set. Towards that right side. 5-yard run. First down and 10 at the Baltimore 49. As it showed Jamar Chase with the bling. With the grill. Diamonds dancing. Three-yard run by Ali. Second down and 7 at the Cincinnati 48. And we're coming down to the very end of the matchup. And Again, if you were going to call this game a blowout, 99% of people probably would have said Ravens. But again, never, ever doubt Joe Burrow when he's healthy. And again, he definitely had the upper hand on Lamar here today. 4 fumbles from the Ravens offense. First time that's happened since 2007 against the Bengals in that game as well. All right, and that is the final score. Bengals 32, Ravens 14. I hope everyone had a fantastic Thanksgiving. I love you guys, and I appreciate you guys very much. Shout out to all the people that liked, sub, donated, commented, shared. Ronald, Megan, Sarah, and Reflect. Appreciate you guys very, very much. And again, we'll be live tomorrow for the Bears and the Eagles at noon Pacific tomorrow on Black Friday, the only NFL game tomorrow. If you're not doing anything, come through. Hang out with your boy. And I got one question for you. Who talk sports like us? Your boy Ryan, Northwest Sports Fanatics. Have a great Thanksgiving, and I'm out. Gang.